Cool Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host, the Yah-Mean of Revolution, and P. Diddy disgusting behind D. What? Before we get into it, be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button, like, share, subscribe. Let everybody know Cool Figure Live. Disgusting pervert has drugged the baby oil, y'all. Salute family. Yeah, those 1,000 bottles of baby oil. Yeah, that wasn't just baby oil. And this is disgusting. Everybody been defending them. This is the type of crap that they really been defending. Let's get right into it and understand. What are you talking about, Cook?
I just read one of the most disturbing things I've ever read in my life. Now, I don't think anybody really comprehends exactly how diabolical this whole situation with Diddy is. I know that we've all heard about the 3 federal charges brought against him, but I don't think anybody understands the severity and the time that he could be serving behind those simple 3 charges. And everybody has seen about the 14-page indictment, but have you guys heard anything about the over 350 pages of the arrest report and what was actually found in his house and what's in that report? Because I've been reading through that report, and I just got to be real honest with y'all. I hate it here. Now, I haven't gotten through the whole 350-page report, but something stuck out to me as so dark and nefarious that I had to stop and make a video and let you guys know what I have just found, especially since I haven't seen anyone else report on this. So today's video is going to be broken into 2 major parts. The first one, we're going to be talking about one of the most disgusting tactics that I've ever heard that Diddy was implementing to incapacitate his victims so that he could do whatever he wanted to them. And then we're going to be talking about exactly how much time Diddy could be looking at from just these 3 simple federal charges. So buckle up, Buttercup, because it's about to get real weird up in here. Let's go!
This morning, watch how federal agents took Sean Diddy Combs into custody. He's seen in this video entering the Park Hyatt Hotel in Midtown Manhattan with others when agents from Homeland Security Investigations approach and separate him. They place Combs under arrest and lead him out the front door in handcuffs. His lawyer said Combs had come to New York 2 weeks earlier with the intention of turning himself in. He did not expect the agents to be waiting at his hotel last Monday night.
So the Department of Homeland Security has coordinated with the FBI throughout this entire investigation. If you didn't know, human trafficking is definitely within the jurisdiction of the Department of Homeland Security, but the FBI had to be called in too because they needed to do some very specific things with these raids. And some of the stuff that they found in those raids is in the report that I've been reading, and some of this stuff is wildly disturbing. Now, I'm pretty sure that at this point, pretty much everybody has heard of the over 700 dilders. And when I say dilders, y'all know what I mean. I'm talking about them rubber wings. If you've been paying attention to this case at all whatsoever, I'm sure that you've already heard of the over 1,000 bottles of lube and baby oil. But this is where it gets really, really dark, everybody. And I need you to pay attention because Diddy dosed some of those bottles of baby oil with GHB. And unless you're an absolute degenerate, you're probably thinking to yourself, JD, what is GHB?
GHB is known by several different names, everything from G to liquid ecstasy, liquid X, and even Easy Lay. And they call it Easy Lay because it is known to be a date rape drug. People will give this to their victim, and their victim will find themselves incapacitated and unconscious. It also often makes people black out, so they wake up and they don't have any memory of what happened to them while they were under the influence of this drug. And that's what Diddy was using to incapacitate his victims and make sure that they couldn't come forward about him after he did what he did to them.
But why would he put it in the baby oil? Don't most people just generally drop that into people's drinks? I'm so glad that you asked, because here's where it starts to get really dubious. Now, out of the 57 witnesses that have been called into this grand jury indictment, 4 of them were medical professionals who treated for GHB. But the thing is the GHB didn't show up in people's urine. which means that some of the people who had been dosed with GHB had been dosed through transdermal exposure. What that is basically it's going in through your skin. So when Diddy was having these parties and people were getting massages with baby oil, they were getting dosed, going unconscious, waking up and not remembering what had happened to them. So then they tested some of the bottles of baby oil that they had taken as evidence, and boom! This filthy scumbag found a brand new way to date rape drug people. Now, I don't know about y'all, but in my book, there's only one way to deal with somebody who's on that level of disgusting behavior. The wood chipper! But unfortunately, we live in
protecting Diddy. Oh, they just going after Diddy. Oh, this wrong what they're doing to the black man. This nigga got drugs in the baby oil and knocking these people unconscious. That's crazy, man.
A country that's baby soft, so the death penalty is not on the table. But let's listen to what this lawyer says about exactly how much time Diddy is looking at for these charges.
How much time is Diddy looking at? All of it. How do we determine federal sentencing? Well, one, we have a chart. Here's that chart now in front of you. Look at it. Let's just take one of the charts, just one. Let's take the sex trafficking. The base offense level for the sex trafficking is 34. That's 151 to 188 months. 60 months is 5 years. 120 months is 10 years. You can do simple math. But the base offense level is just what it is. Base, how much can you smoke? Base is the start. They can add points to the base offense level. So how do you add points? If there are victims involved, you can add points. Let's say it's 2 points. Ding, ding, 34, 35, 36. Roll. If it shows that Diddy is the manager, the leader, the ringleader, the person that they listen to, the one giving orders, then that automatically goes up 4 points. So 34, 35, 36 plus 4, 40. Then we go with the obstruction. If they believe that Diddy has done something to obstruct justice, like, I don't know, maybe call witnesses and saying, don't testify against me. That's another 2 levels, 41 and 42. We put our chart back up. Where's 42 take us? 360 to life.
Having looked through this paperwork on this case, every single thing that he mentioned there is absolutely shit that they can 100% prove. That's a minimum of 30 years to natural life in a federal pound you in the ass prison. And that is just off the one charge. He still has other charges and probably more pending that'll be dropping real soon. But what if he has really good lawyers? Don't you think that maybe they could get him off on this? Even though the feds have a 98.2% conviction rate, they've spent a long time gathering all the information. They have 57 witnesses and they basically caught him red-handed. Let's ask the homie Bruce Rivers.
Guess what, Diddy? I got news for you. There's a freight train coming. And you are tied to those motherfucking tracks. And your lawyer, he's got a chisel, he's got a blowtorch, and he's got all kinds of other tools in his toolbox. And nothing he can do can remove you from those tracks, because that train is coming, and that train is the U.S. government. And they're going to run a train on you.
Now, I'm not going to lie. That excited me, Bruce. The idea of the things that I could do to Diddy with a chisel and a blowtorch absolutely made my lady parts quiver. I don't even have lady parts. How did that happen? Now, at this point, we all pretty much know that Diddy tried to get bail twice. And both times, the judge denied him, shot him down, said, you are going to sit in jail. And there's 2 reasons why that's really important. The first of which is pretty self-explanatory. We're all happy that Diddy gets to sit in jail and rot. The second of which, I'm going to let this lawyer run down to you.
Federal Judge, District Judge Andrew Carter said no to Puff Daddy's request for release from jail during the pendency of his criminal charges. Now, why is that important? Well, one, at the arraignment, the judge said, I think he's too much of a risk.
I need you to keep in mind that Diddy offered up $50 million in cold hard cash. He offered up properties as collateral that were worth hundreds of millions, and he offered to be on house arrest with an ankle monitor and no guests that were female, even though we all know a lot of his victims are dudes and he likes to while they're out dudes, while they're knocked out. That's beside the point. Anyway, it doesn't matter because the judge said no.
It wasn't enough for 2 reasons. 1, obstruction of justice. 2, witness tampering.
Now, keep in mind that one of Diddy's 3 federal charges is obstruction of justice. They have already hit him with one of those charges. That means that he was trying to tamper with this case. He was trying to intimidate or pay off witnesses. And I'm just going to tell you right now, they did not plan to arrest him the day that they did. He wasn't supposed to be arrested until the next day, but he called one of the witnesses that he found out was going to be a witness somehow 57 times that day. And they were like, fuck this. Let's go get his bitch ass and bring him in right now. And that's part of the reason he ain't going nowhere. Y'all smell that? Diddy's cooked! Now, the one thing that I can say with absolute certainty is with the amount of lawsuits that have come out, with the amount of people who keep coming out every single day talking about what he's been doing, what he's done to them, what he's done to others, there are so many other victims out there who have not come forward, and they were probably terrified because it is being established right now that Diddy was actively working with the NYPD and other law enforcement agencies. So hopefully knowing that Diddy is locked up and he is not going anywhere will give some of these victims and survivors peace. They'll be able to sleep a little bit easier at night, breathe easier during the day, and get back to the life that they deserved before they met this absolute monster. And y'all know me, I'm here for this crime shit, so I'm going to keep you up to date on everything that goes on as long as it
What's going on, y'all? What it is. So let's go ahead and slide on these topics. And the first thing I want to discuss is the fact that Diddy's lawyer has come out and stated that Diddy is going to testify at his own trial. Now, I don't know if that's a good idea. Normally, when the circumstances are this dire, it seems as though that the lawyer would instruct their client not to speak. But I guess Diddy feels that we need to hear his side of the story. We need to hear his perspective on all of this. I don't know if this moves the needle to a lighter sentence. But for me personally, my hope is when he does testify, I hope that it's televised. And I hope that he takes that opportune time right then and there to start snitching live on TV. I want Diddy to belch out the names of these powerful politicians, these powerful ex-presidents. I want him to belch out the names of the Hollywood elites. I want him to belch out the names of all of the athletes. I want him to belch out the names of the CEOs of these Fortune 500 companies that have done the same crimes, have committed the same crimes that he has now been charged with. I think everybody needs to be brought to the forefront and everybody needs to be charged and held accountable, just not black people.
So Diddy plans to testify at criminal trial. Lawyer confirms he's very eager to tell it all, to tell his whole story and nothing but the truth. Sean Diddy Combs is said to be very eager to testify at his upcoming criminal trial, according to his lawyer. I don't know that I could keep him off the stand, the music mogul's attorney Mark said. I think he will tell every part of his story, including what you see on the video, added referring to the shocking surveillance footage that emerged in May showing Combs physically his ex-girlfriend Cassie. He has his story. He has a story that I think only he can tell in a way that he can tell it in real time. It's a human story. It's a story of love. It's a story of hurt. It's a story of heartbreak. This is just the beginning. A lot of people about to go down.
The biggest witness at Diddy's trial may be Diddy himself. According to his lawyer today, Diddy wants to tell his story, and his story is one of, quote, love, hurt, and heartbreak, end quote. Definitely leave in the comments what you think about that. So will he testify? I mean, most defendants don't because it's very risky to testify. And any trial is still a ways out, so he could very well change his mind. So is this kind of statement something meant to even convince potential jurors that there is another side of the story, despite the indictment saying that there's a ton of evidence and witnesses to this, that it's actually not true? That kind of a statement certainly helps him from a PR point of view, and maybe even from the potential jurors hearing that statement. Whether or not he actually does testify, I still think is very much in doubt.
All right, so you guys just heard all of that. Now, just like the lady said, over the course of some time, Diddy could elect not to testify. I believe that his lawyer will try to convince him not to testify, that it will be in his best interest if he doesn't. But
Listen, we know how Diddy operates. He's been doing too much all of his life, and I expect him to do too much in regards to this case, and I expect him to testify and get on that stand. That's just my opinion. But anyway, guys, let's move along, and I want to talk about this egg test. Guys, Suge Knight was a guest on News Nation, and he was talking, I believe, to Cuomo. Cuomo, is that how you pronounce his name? I don't know. But anyway, he was talking to him about the nature of Diddy's case. I don't have that audio here, but I do have people that are going to talk about this in its entirety in regards to this egg test that you have to pass within Hollywood. I want you guys to check out this clip, and I'll be back.
They used to have these guys, they used to call it the boiled egg test. They should take a boiled egg, a raw boiled egg. They have those guys put their pins down when they stick it up there. The eggs break, they say they're not ready yet. They ain't put enough work in. This is Hollywood. So everybody want to go act like they don't know what's going on.
Hold on a second.
But you just look. That's all you got to do.
I have never heard of anything like that. So if I haven't heard about it, just assume a lot of people haven't heard that before. But you think it's on video?
Let's stop for a second.
Go ahead, Suge.
Shakana! We got to talk about this egg test. In fact, we got to talk about everything that Suge Knight dropped about Diddy here. Now, Suge, who is currently serving a 28-year prison sentence, did an interview with News Nation the other night to talk about all the stuff going on with Diddy. And these two have a very long history that goes back to the mid-90s. Now, one of the things that Suge talked about was the fact that the music industry has a long-standing history of SAing and a lot of their talent. And he talked about something called the egg test, where basically these guys would have to pull down their pants, take an egg, and shove it, and if the egg cracked, it meant that they weren't ready, that they hadn't put in enough time yet. He also said that Diddy was not the first and very likely won't be the last, that Diddy was taught by people in the industry, and he used that knowledge to do it to other people, other young artists. He then went on to name specific people: Clive Davis, Russell Simmons, Andre Harrell, and Jimmy Iovine. He then went on to call out people like Rick Ross, Snoop Dogg, and Jay-Z for not being whistleblowers, that they knew what was going on but never said a word. Now, in the interest of fairness, Clive Davis' spokesperson did put out a statement which reads, "This is a completely fabricated thread that is being trafficked by an incarcerated felon. Mr. Knight's assertions about Clive Davis are 100% false, as nothing of the sort ever happened. Clive is a mentor to artists, and in keeping with this, never, ever condoned any such inappropriate behavior."
All right, so you guys just heard that mess, right? It's not above the realm of possibility. I'm not shocked nor surprised, right? We're talking about Hollywood, and a lot of people do some weird things just to get into the good spaces of these Hollywood elites, right? But anyway, I want to move along and talk about these tunnels that my plug tipped me off about in regards to the feds actually discovering these tunnels at both of Diddy's mansions, the one in LA and the one in Miami. And basically, it leads to a dungeon type of atmosphere, he explained in the text message. So what I want to do right now is take the time to read to you all what a Hollywood insider told him. Now, before I read you this information, I do want to say that the information that I'm about to convey to you is all alleged. I have to protect the integrity of my platform. And so it says here, Chief, they're running tests on several bins of clothes that were found at Diddy's LA and Miami mansions. Those findings have been processed for possible DNA matches of victims, including diners. All right, I'm paraphrasing there. You guys can read what it actually says. And people who attended his freak-offs and left underwear, socks, and other clothing behind. It's been brought to my attention that some people, including high-profile celebrities, often left his parties rude. I'm paraphrasing again. You guys read exactly what it says. The feds have text messages of high-profile public figures texting Diddy and inquiring about possessions they may have left behind in hopes to retrieve those items. Well, it looks as though Diddy did not return those items to those people, and this has sent a sense of pandemonium and fear throughout the industry. Also, the feds found tunnels at both mansions as well that led to a dungeon-like atmosphere. They're processing those areas and findings as well for possible DNA matches. It's been said that the results of said property could take months to be processed, but the results could be revealed at the midway point of his trial. All right, so you guys just heard all of that. So it seems as though Diddy was holding on to people's clothes. I guess it was a souvenir to him, you know, to remind him of those nights that they attended the freak-offs and what they all did together. It's crazy when you got the feds sending bins of clothes that could potentially belong to other people for testing. They're trying to extract DNA. They want to know Who was at those parties? And it's going to be crazy. And then they're saying that there was allegedly some diners involved. And I'm paraphrasing there. You guys know what rhymes with diners, but it's about to be crazy. Some of our favorite celebrities, some of the people that we revere are about to be exposed. So get ready for it. Get ready to be let down by people that you held in high regard. But anyway, I want to move along because the mayor of New York, Eric Adams, has been indicted on 5 federal public corruption charges, including bribery and wire fraud, and it's all in connection to Turkey. Now, while I was making this video, Eric Adams turned himself in and he's set to be arraigned sometime today. Now, the issue is that it seems as though Eric was dealing with some people in Turkey that was donating to his campaign, right? And so what I gather from all of this is that it's against the law for an outside country to donate to a U.S. campaign. And that is what Eric Adams was doing. He was dealing with these people over there, taking money from them and things of that nature. And so what I want to do right now is leave you guys with this clip because this woman does a very good job. She was very thorough in her reporting and the way she broke things down in regards to the case dealing with Eric Adams. In the meantime, I want you guys to feel free to drop down in the comments and let me know what you think about everything that was discussed within this video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you're new here. And until next time, peace.
Eric Adams is cooked. His indictment is 57 pages long. And of course, I read through the whole thing. I'm going to go fast. I have highlighted sections, so I'm not going to be talking about every page, but let's get into it. He was indicted on 5 counts. 1, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, federal program bribery, and receiving campaign contributions from a foreign national. 2, wire fraud. 2 counts 3 and 4 of solicitation of contributions by foreign nationals, and 5, bribery. Obviously, there's a lot in this indictment about foreign influence in U.S. elections and on politicians, but it's also going to talk about how Adams defrauded New York City out of at least $10,000 in public funds. To try and hide his crimes, he created and had others create fake paper trails falsely suggesting that he paid or planned to pay for travel gifts that were given to him for free, and he deleted messages with others involved in his misconduct, including in one instance assuring a co-conspirator in writing that he always deleted their messages. And of course, corruption goes all around. So in exchange for free travel and gifts and contributions to his campaign, he had to repay these Turkish officials and businessmen with something. One of the ways he repaid them was by pressuring the FDNY to facilitate the opening of a new Turkish consular building, a 36-story skyscraper, without a fire inspection, just so it would be ready in time for the Turkish president's visit. Because of the pressure he put on the fire department, the official responsible for assessing fire safety was told that they would lose their job if they didn't comply. Let's get into the real juicy stuff. So he started traveling to Turkey and accepting illegal campaign contributions and personal benefits from foreign nationals. And of course, a big thing with this is he never reported, except for one time, any of the gifts and free upgrades and free travel he received. There are a few recurring characters in this story. So we got the Turkish official, the promoter, the owner and chairman of the Turkish university known as Businessman One, and Adam's staffer, who started as a volunteer for him and then turned into a paid employee. Now, Adam's staffer, at his direction, coordinated many of the illegal campaign contributions and improper personal benefits relevant to the indictment. So starting in 2016, Adams secretly began accepting free luxury travel. He would buy like a relatively cheap economy ticket on Turkish Airlines and then be upgraded for free immediately, like the difference of $10,000 in one trip. He also started accepting like luxury stay in really nice hotels in Istanbul. Here's one of the suites he stayed in. In order to conceal the valuable flight, hotel, and other travel gifts Adams accepted from foreign nationals seeking influence over him, he did not disclose any of the trips on his annual disclosures form, which he is legally required to do. And here's how we know he knew what he was doing was wrong, because he started creating fake paper trails. He had a scheduler who was in charge of like managing his appointments and meetings, but they would also do personal tasks for him, including collecting rent on his Brooklyn properties. But then they started like booking some of this travel stuff for him. Now, he would send them messages and be like, down here, I left you the money for the international airline in an envelope on your desk, suggesting that he left like $10K in an envelope for them to pay this airline. But he was just sending that message so it would be a record, because he didn't do that. And even Turkish Airlines confirms that he didn't pay for that flight. Turkish Airlines is going to come up a lot, but he also started accepting campaign contributions through straw contributions when he started running for mayor in 2018. So throughout the 2021 campaign, he solicited and knowingly accepted straw donations, including from foreign sources, while continuing to secretly accept free and heavily discounted travel benefits from the Turkish official, the promoter, and the airline manager. And he had his staffer helping the Turkish official figure out how to circumvent U.S. campaign finance laws. And when they asked how much can companies donate, they were like, well, no. Individuals can donate. And then they helped them devise plans to funnel money through their employees to then donate to Adams' campaign. I really can't help but the staffer really had no idea what they were getting themselves into at the beginning, because when the promoter starts explaining, well, we're going to send him a ton of money, and she was saying, well, I don't think he's going to get involved in those games because it could cause a problem later, but I'll ask just to be sure. And when they asked Adams whether they should pursue the unlawful foreign contributions offered by the promoter, contrary to what the staffer thought, Adams directed that staffer to pursue the promoter's illegal scheme. It seems like they laid it out pretty clearly. There was a businessman who owned a construction company in New York, and 2 volunteers for his 2021 campaign asked the businessman to contribute $10,000 to the campaign and said it would give him influence with Adams, and that gaining influence with him would be more expensive later on. They, told him you can't donate through your corporate account when he offered to write a check himself. They basically helped him create a plan to funnel it through his employees, and he followed their directions. So he gave 5 of his employees $2,000 to contribute themselves, which, because they are New York City residents, the campaign received matching funds for. So mayoral candidates can pull from this fund where up to $250, they receive like a match from this fund, and it just increases ultimately the amount of money their campaign gets. The businessman cashed in on his contributions pretty quickly because he reached out to Adams and said he had a problem with the New York City Department of Buildings getting a stop work order lifted. Adams said, I'm going to look into it. And a week and a half later, businessman texted him, Mayor, brother, I want to thank you for your help. The DOB issue was partially resolved, and they promised to expedite the process. This is pretty much the same thing. There was a different Turkish businessman who ran a construction company in New York City, and he worked with the Turkish official, fundraisers, staffers to plan a fundraiser for Adams. And prior to the fundraiser, Businessman 5's construction company, at the direction of him, provided $1,250 per employee to 10 of its employees to donate to Adams' campaign. I do love that one of the employees kept 50 of the dollars and put the campaign contribution in his wife's name. Maybe he knew. For 8 of those 10 contributions, the campaign also got the matching funds from the New York City Campaign Finance Board. And then Businessman 1, the one who owns the Turkish University, wanted to plan a fundraiser for Adams, to which Adams told his staffer that he's not doing an in-person fundraiser for less than $25K. But the Adams staffer talked with Businessman 1 and said, no, we're expecting $45K. Now, the staffer told Adams about the plan to funnel Businessman 1's contribution through U.S.-based straw donors, and Adams approved the plan, knowing that Businessman 1 was a Turkish citizen. After Adams won the election, the promoter and Businessman 1 had a text conversation where they were talking about him winning, and the promoter said, he is most likely going to assign me as representative. I'm going to go talk to our elders in Ankara about how we can turn this into an advantage for our country's lobby. Remember how I was talking about those matching funds? Well, all told, his 2021 campaign got over $10 million of, I believe, the $12 million fund based on the false certifications that the campaign complied with the law, and when in fact Eric Adams knowingly and repeatedly relied on illegal contributions. Now, here we get into him accepting bribes from Turkish officials and intervening on their behalf with the NYFD. Remember how I was talking about those matching funds? Yeah, all told, his campaign took in over $10 million in matching funds, I believe of a $12 million fund, even though he knowingly and repeatedly relied on illegal contributions. Turkish officials were also helping with this fake paper trail when the Adams fundraiser went to Turkey on free accommodations. The Turkish official provided a fake bill for the hotel stay to allow the Adams campaign and the fundraiser to create the appearance that they paid for the hotel stay when everyone knew they didn't. Now, here's where we get into just some more corruption. They were trying to open a Turkish consulate in New York City, but couldn't get the temporary certificate of occupancy for the building. The Turkish officials told Adams that they supported him and now it's his turn. And he said, I know. Adams got involved, started talking to higher ups at the FDNY, and the fire prevention chief wrote an unprecedented conditional letter of no objection And the fire prevention chief wrote an unprecedented conditional letter of no objection to help get this approved. And the Turkish officials continue to fulfill his end of the bargain by providing additional luxury travel benefits to Adams, totals of upwards of more than $14,000. Here's just an overview of some of the trips that Adams took and their value. I totaled it. It's $123,000. And this is more things Adams did after becoming mayor. So right after he was sworn in, he started preparing for the next election in 2025. Adams had dinner with the promoter, and the promoter stated he could collect more foreign contributions in the future and raise more money for Adams' 2025 campaign if Adams went to Turkey and met with Turkish business people. Adams welcomed the offer of foreign contributions and told the promoter to coordinate with Adams' staffer to arrange the contribution. This is also extremely gross. The Turkish official repeatedly asked the Adams staffer for reassurance that Adams would not make any statements about the anniversary of the Armenian genocide, and Adams did not make any statement on it. Part of his 2025 campaign, he also solicited and knowingly accepted straw and foreign contributions and had his staff help obtain those foreign contributions, and then he attended a fundraiser and thanked the true donors who were foreign nationals. There was more evidence of another fundraiser for the 2025 campaign, giving money to people's employees for them to donate under the guise that it was an individual contribution.
Sean Diddy Combs is facing yet another lawsuit. As the rapper remains in jail following his September 16th arrest on charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution, an unidentified woman has filed a new lawsuit claiming the mogul drugged and sexually assaulted her, according to documents obtained by E! News. The suit, filed September 27th, alleges that Diddy repeatedly assaulted the woman, identified as Jane Doe, over a 4-year period, and says that one occasion led to her becoming pregnant. Attorneys for the unidentified woman say she first became acquainted with the rapper in the fall of 2020 while, quote, overseas, and was later invited on an all-expenses-paid trip. Following their 2020 meeting, the documents allege Jane Doe began seeing the rapper, quote, approximately once per month in 2021 and 2022, with the record executive arranging for her to come to his homes in Miami, Los Angeles, and New York. The woman alleges that she didn't attend these meetings of her own volition, but says Diddy and his staff used, quote, coercive and harassing language to get her to see him. Those meetings led to several instances of abuse detailed in the filing, including allegations of forced drug use and rape. The documents then state that shortly after a July 2022 meeting with Diddy, Jane Doe learned she was pregnant, with her going on to claim that the rapper's team then harassed her to get an abortion before she ended up suffering a miscarriage. Jane Doe says she's endured trauma, financial injury, and physical injury at the hands of Diddy, and is seeking an unspecified amount of damages in her lawsuit. With her attorneys telling E! News in a statement, powerful figures in the entertainment industry have long exploited aspiring artists and fans. Recent high-profile lawsuits aim to hold these celebrities accountable, potentially transforming industry practices and providing justice for victims. No one is above the law. Fame and wealth do not protect Sean Diddy Combs from serious allegations of sex trafficking and abuse. E! News has reached out to Diddy's lawyers for comment, but hasn't yet heard back. This lawsuit is just the latest in a string of legal issues the 54-year-old is facing. He was previously denied bail following his latest arrest and currently remains in custody awaiting trial, for which a date has not yet been set. Diddy continues to deny all allegations made against him and is set to appear in court October 9th for a status hearing.
Didn't want to just keep
rehashing things. So I wanted to add something new to the discussion. And I was listening. I was with Courtney Brown. We were talking about the disco era and stuff. And we were listening to Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive. And it made me think of how really during Puffy's peak of musically, so many of those songs were just, I mean, sample is a generous word. It was, I'm coming out. I'm coming out. Oh, wow. Remember that song? I'm coming.
You know what I mean? When I specifically said to my uncle, yo, you know, this was summer of 91, you know, we made a lot of money. Just with me, mostly heroin. You know, we made a lot of money. Just with me. Just with me on in that year.
Millions.
3-4 million.
Yeah. But no, you wanted to get in the music.
I said, yo, we should get in the music shit. We should get in the music business. And his response was, that shit is, said he was dead serious. I didn't know how, I didn't, when he said it, I didn't take it literally. I didn't take it literally. I didn't take it literally.
But he meant it.
But he meant it literally.
Figuratively and literally.
Yes, he meant it literally. He was like, whoa.
He took stuff from the disco era and that whole ghetto fabulous. That was a very Harlem, and then maybe like Detroit and Chicago and a few other places had it in the 70s, but definitely Harlem as the epicenter of black population. You know, it had really grimy areas, but Harlem had politicians, business people. It was about, you know, we're black and maybe it's edgy, but it's also very glamorous, beautiful people. We dress up. He took that 70s, that Mickey Barnes era that his father, Melvin Combs, was a part of, and I don't know what involvement his mother, I'm not saying she was involved in criminal stuff, but she, you know, they lived there. She dated Melvin Combs. He really just packaged up something from the past, and he put that gloss on it, the streets, kind of some violent. Biggie brought you to Biggie wasn't really a drug dealer killer himself, but he brought you that danger component, and then Puffy had the ghetto fabulous. I mean, that was, for those of you not old enough, that was a phrase that kind of came up around that time. And Bad Boy in its peak, that's, you know, what it was. Drug dealer chic. They weren't drug dealers, but that's who they got the style from.
Culture of that developing, that burgeoning music style that came to be called hip hop by the corporates, it kind of fueled and heightened the awareness of this thing that had been so present that it was almost peripheral to kids in the hood. Drug dealing and all that, they knew it was there, but it was there, and it was always like, mind your business.
There wasn't a lot to hang around us.
So they knew we were there, but
you weren't buying drugs.
They weren't really paying no attention like that, right? Early 80s, 84, 85.
That correspond with the influx of cocaine?
Yes, the influx of cocaine and the downtrending price of it and the availability. So it got cheap, fast, and a lot, right? And I remember seeing kids who had like jobs, young guys with jobs, and they would walk around with a pager on.
Or pretend.
But the pager wasn't on.
Pretend it's on drugs.
They would just be pretending. They'd have a pager, they'd have a little 10-karat gold chain.
You need to know that while on the surface, criminals can be very appealing, I think hopefully most of us know the reality of serious crime is very dark. That's why the movie, you know, for those of us that are in the mob movies, Godfather's a movie you watch, but, you know, Goodfellas is considered probably the best mob movie because it really showed the seamy side of, like, you know, we're just out here money grubbing, kill your best friend for money,
Of course, the famous Lufthansa heist, Jimmy Burke knocks off all the people who helped him, who were his friends, just so he could keep all the money to himself. But not only is there that, but the decadence and debauchery. So here's a clip of Dapper Dan, and shout out to whoever shot this clip. I'm putting a link to your channel on here.
And he'll either feel bad, he'll do anything to it.
So the question is, how do you think about the whole Puff Daddy situation that's going on right now?
Okay. Watching this carefully. I grew up with Puff Daddy's parents. And go. We all come from Holland, born that very trip.
You didn't think talk of privacy.
No matter what happens in the culture, it didn't just start.
And in a minute, the other is problems less.
No matter what happens in the culture, it didn't start, just start. A lot of things that you see happen came about from not even from my generation, but the generation that became before me.
So look what Dapper Dan, he thought, this is right before Puffy got taken into custody. He was questioned swirling. So think about what he said. He thought for a long time. He said, I ran with, I hung out with Melvin Combs, Dapper Dan, whatever went on in Harlem, 70s, 80s, 90s, Dapper Dan knows. If you don't know who Dapper Dan is, he influenced the culture with fashion. He came, I don't know what he's convicted of, so I don't want to say the things I was told he was involved in. I don't know what he's convicted of, but let's just say he came from the streets into fashion. That's how he knew all the street guys, and that's how he was respected to hold his, people, he was able to be in Harlem and make money and not get pressed, I guess. So he knows everything that happened. But look what he said. Nothing that's going on was made up, now or back. So extreme sex, weird sex, drug stuff, because a bunch of people with too much money, kind of twisted and demented.
By having these players' balls and these, sessions where there's a block party and everybody's there, and you see a line of these, chrome and fucking exotic goddamn vehicles and motherfuckers, casual of it, but they just super fucking fly, and you're in the midst of some of the poorest fucking people in the country.
I appreciate the love, man.
And those images don't give way to the realities behind them of, going into a shooting gallery. It would be a hallway lined with people lying around, ulcers as big as your fist, dripping with pus, feet as big as an elephant's foot.
That's where the money came from.
That's where all of this glitz and glam came from. If you're removed from that part of it, then it's very easy to romanticize the outcome. If you're not removed from that part of it, and you're a participant in the glitz aspect of it, even as you're sitting around in your nice car with your fresh outfit on, your silk leisure suit from AJ Lester and all of that, and you sitting there with your snakeskin shoes on and all of that, with your big diamond pinky ring and shit like that, and motherfucker buffing up the chrome and all of that. Your thinking is that so you're thinking, while everybody's looking at you, the girls looking at you all like, oh, he's everything. Because there's nothing, you could be the most unattractive guy in the world, but if you're adorned in all of the things, all the trappings that they dream about, you represent more than just what you look like. You represent all the greatest possibilities in life. But at the same time, you're looking at them, looking at you like the guys, all the young guys want to be like you. They're looking at you and they just want to say hi to you, whatever, and you giving out dollars and shit like that. But you know what you're thinking? You're thinking, damn, I hope that motherfucking package don't fall. Damn, I hope this motherfucker don't fuck up that motherfucking money, because if he do, these things gonna drop me out the window. You know, so-and-so and such going to, take me somewhere and you shove a fucking broomstick up my ass. Yeah, or stick a needle in my arm with some battery acid that they scraped off the top of a fucking car battery.
Legal stuff, streets, gangsters coming together. I mean, Puffy is being accused of using, of having violent people around him to blowing up Kid Cudi's car. He hasn't been convicted, but I mean, Roger Bonds, who was a security guard, is convicted murderer back in the day. Doesn't mean that Roger Bonds was involved in any of the degeneracy, but point being, Puffy began to surround himself with respected, at least at one time, dangerous guys from the streets of Harlem. So what is he saying? I used to run with Melvin Combs. There's nothing new. Now, let's see what Cavario says. Now, that was a clip that may get used, or at least as part of the interview process with our new documentary, Beyond Street Dreams. Me and Courtney Brown of Motown Mafia are putting together and went to New York, interviewed Cavario, some other people, Branson. Some of the most sick and demented people. So are drug dealers the way they are, like they're in the rap songs, like Rick Ross, we flip keys and then we're just at the club with champagne and girls? Well, there's definitely people that are major traffickers that are not sick and demented people. I wouldn't be interacting with a sick and demented person, but there's certainly people that are. So let's specifically talk about this weird SEX stuff and drugs. Cavario had told me long ago about, so Cavario's, read his book, Raised by Wolves. It's not urban literature. It's really well written. Cavario's mother, Cavario's block was 116th and 8th, 115th and 8th. The corner, the epicenter of the drug trade in Harlem, which is the epicenter, at least as far as heroin in the 70s, 80s, 90s, probably now, I don't know. 100 was their corner, one corner of their, like the end of their block is where Frank Lucas was, Nicky Barnes, New York Freddie, and Cavario's family controlled the block off the corner. This is true. This is a fact. And Cavario's mother, let's just say for shorthand, would have been sort of maybe a notch or maybe two notches beneath like a Nicky Barnes in the Harlem food chain. So she specifically told Cavario when he was maybe 12 or 13, if I'm not around, don't you ever talk to, be around, do anything with, don't even talk to, get away from Nicky and any of them people. You see how they got them young boys riding around in their cars. Now, for those of us from neighborhoods where there's drug dealers and we growing up, that's a thing of like, oh, you let the young guys drive your car, and that doesn't necessarily mean there's molestation going on, which is what sex between a grown man and even a 15-year-old boy, even if he got on a big chain and he carry a gun, if he has sex with a man, is molestation. Now, I'm not saying every drug dealer let a young guy drive his car is doing that, but think about, what if you were out and about and you saw a 16-year-old boy driving my Porsche truck around, and he ain't my, and I don't mean like I'm at the end of the block and he's the neighbor's kid and I let him up and drive down the street. Like I give him my Porsche and he ain't my nephew. Would that be odd? Well, yeah, it would be odd because I'm not. But now, if I was a drug dealer, would it seem, oh, well, that's just some fly shit to do? Maybe. But Cavario's mother specifically was saying that crew, that Harlem, that Nikki, not everybody in Harlem, but that Nikki was the top of the food chain. That crew were just degenerates. And Nikki himself talks about, if you combine COK, Coke, and PCP together, it's the best sex ever. I mean, he had he was known for having, not young girls, but young women, 19, 20s, 45. Again, that's legal, and lots of people do that, and that's fine. But certainly, being a huge drug dealer and you're already rich and you're still doing it, you're somebody whose brain is attuned to needing extreme, to get your dopamine, you need, we got 100,000, I need to make $1 million. We need to kill somebody. I need 4 women. Let's turn out this boy. I don't know. But she wouldn't have told her son Cavario that if she didn't think it was worth telling. And there are sick, listen, when I was, late 80s, early 90s, when the crack was really bad, it was a known thing. Like if you're a young guy selling drugs, like those grown women, I'll give you some head for a rock. But is the woman the victim? If it's 14, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old boys and a 30-year-old woman, you think if 30-year-old male drug addicts couldn't go around trading sex to 14-year-old female drug dealers, they wouldn't gladly do it, and we would think it was the most degenerate thing ever, because it would be. Why is it different? Because it's the boy, the male, is underage. It's not. And we talked about before a certain dope man in Detroit. It's known he was up the food chain, and we think he's still alive. That take the dick, get the bricks was real, and it's known. People know about it. It was somebody that was way up the food chain, and there was people who took him up on the offer. Because that stuff goes on in every element of society. Why wouldn't it go on in the streets? But in the streets, you have more people in a distressed situation, young people poor in the neighborhood who's selling drugs to young teenagers, people on drugs. There's much more desperation in that world. Melvin Combs came from Nicky's crew. I mean, he wasn't up the food chain, but he was the flunky of a flunky. Like, he was part of that world. And Puffy recreated that world of disco era dope man Harlem with his Ghetto Fabulous, because he didn't make that up. It was that Superfly era was the original Ghetto Fabulous. But what else was brought out of that time with Puffy? Just some food for thought as we think about the street culture that has become pervasive to worship amongst some people. Because at this point, a lot of people aren't, not the money you're interested in. It's this whole idea. Okay, say somebody who sells drugs, illegal drugs, you could say, well, they're no different than someone who sells cigarettes and alcohol. Probably so. But nobody treats the Middle Eastern or the whatever guy at your corner store who makes a bunch of money selling Newports and E&J VSOP. Nobody treats him like he's the coolest guy ever, the bee's knees, because he sells Newports. But yet, some of you treat people just because they sold some dope, they from the trenches, that in and of itself makes them cool. maybe you did that and you're cool, but that doesn't make you cool. That's just a source of income. So the streets are debauched and degenerate. And what came along, what's ghetto fabulous? Is that total unbridled hedonism? Like apparently Mr. Freakoff was engaged in, and people don't generally pick up new behaviors when they're 50 or 40 or even 30. You know, a few do. Probably going on all along. Did he bring it out of childhood?
Joe, Gavin, and George, along with the rest of their family, have worked very hard to build their empire.
Wanted to create the ultimate party place.
Perhaps her performance was less than polished because of all the partying she got in Sin City rather than rehearsal time. Late Friday night, Britney hit 3 hotspots and was snapped at Caesar's Palace at Pure nightclub with P. Diddy. Saturday night, she hit the dance floor again. And last night, after leaving the awards, Britney was spotted at Noir nightclub until 2:30 this morning, where she apparently spent most of her time in the restroom.
Saying give Britney a break.
Give Britney or any woman or children.
25 years old, and she's already accomplished everything she's going to accomplish in her life. It's mind-blowing.
This is the MTV VH1 Viacom hit.
Please do not send any hate or honestly comments of any kind to anyone mentioned in this video on behalf of me or yourself. The purpose of this video is to give my commentary and opinion on matters of public concern. Thank you.
So fast forward, now we're in the fall, August 2007, and Britney hosts another event. This time it was the grand opening of a bar or a club called LAX, which was inside the Luxor.
Celebrity guest superstar who's hosting tonight is here. Give it up for Miss Britney Spears.
Here's a People magazine article, and I did discuss this on my live from a couple days ago. It might have been yesterday, but first she hung out with Chris Angel again at Body English in the Hard Rock Hotel. Britney and her pals, who had a VIP table surrounded with 5 dozen roses, were joined by Illusionist. I'm happy they called him that. With whom she's been rehearsing. She was supposed to perform with him. He ghosted her. Okay, but she's here rehearsing with him. Quote, she wouldn't stop dancing with her friends and she looked great, an onlooker said. After about an hour, Britney left hand in hand with Chris Angel. Then P. Diddy hosted an event at the Pure nightclub. Now, Britney was there in January hosting an event. So now it's P. Diddy's turn to host an event at the Pure nightclub that's in the Caesar's Palace Hotel in Vegas. This is back in 2007. Then he comes up on the mic and makes the following statement. Listen up, we have Miss Britney Spears in the crowd, Diddy announced from the main stage at 2 a.m. on Saturday. So this is I can't help but consider this to be anything other than a P. Diddy party. I mean, I think people are even wearing, the white clothes and stuff like that. I don't know, maybe I'm getting confused. But Britney had slipped into the club through a side door with 6 girlfriends wearing a strapless black mini dress. She held court in the VIP area, smiling, sipping champagne, and dancing barefoot on a couch. That sounds like the only thing I would be trying to do. It's just sitting with my friends and standing on the couch with no shoes on. At one point, Diddy got on the microphone and told the crowd, Britney, she holds her head up high, show some respect. To which Britney immediately put her head down and hid her face until Diddy started playing, or had the DJ or whatever start playing Britney's newly released song, Gimme More. So once they started playing Gimme More, apparently that was the trigger to make her stop hiding her face and to stand up and dance or whatever, which I don't know what that's about. She left the P. Diddy party around 2:30 a.m., smiling and waving to the crowd as she walked through a path cleared by security guards and headed to Noir Bar at the Luxor. So she keeps kind of hopping back and forth from the Caesar's Palace to the Luxor, from the Caesar's Palace to the Luxor. P. Diddy's opening a club. She's opening a club. They're going to Pure. He's going to Pure. It's kind of the same places, but maybe they just like those places, girl. I don't know. Anyway, the party appearance capped a busy day for Britney, who arrived in Vegas Friday and rehearsed behind closed doors in the Palms Casino Resort's Pearl Theater for her, quote, comeback performance. And that performance, and I had forgotten this, I don't know if I ever even actually knew it, was the VMA's opener. So I've always kind of blamed the VMAs for this setup of sorts and this sabotage, but now I'm realizing it might have also been a whole industry-wide web worth of people to set it up, because everybody knows that there has to be like some event at the VMAs for people to talk about it. It's got to be Miley Cyrus with a foam finger. It's got to be Britney Spears with a yellow snake. It's got to be Kanye West about to let Taylor Swift finish, but then Beyonce had one of the whatever of all time or whatever. It's always got to be some event. And it's clear as day now in retrospect, looking back, this was the event. The event was to humiliate and embarrass and sabotage Britney Spears, who was already going through a tremendous amount of turmoil in her life. So she was supposed to open the VMAs. The hair people were sabotaging her. Chris Angel didn't show up. He had a whole illusion routine, and she just basically got thrown out there in a bikini by herself, naked on a stage. Anyway, then there's a quote from this weirdo that holds her purse about she's focusing on performing or something. I mean, I don't really know. He's such a plant, in my opinion. He's talking about how Britney is focusing on performing and she's in a more mature place, but it kind of isn't reconcilable with the fact that she's been club hopping for the last 3 nights in a row in Vegas or whatever. Anyway, so I think the next day rolls around, September 8th, and 50 Cent hosted a party and performed at the Hard Rock. Again, we've already been there. It's like one of the same places that they all go. And Britney is seen yet again partying with P. Diddy and her cousin, Allie Sims. But this time, Paris Hilton is there, and so is 50 Cent. Now, we do know that 50 Cent and P. Diddy have since had a falling out because they do not get along and they do not like each other, at least as far as public appearances are concerned. They also went to Cassie's 21st birthday party that same night at Jet nightclub, which is in a completely different casino, the Mirage. But here's some pictures from that night, and Britney's there with Diddy. I mean, there's this very strange picture of some man like picking her up. It looks like maybe she's not in full control of her faculties. There's a picture of her with Diddy and Cassie with her birthday cake. I remember she's 21 years old. Now, at this point, is Diddy dating Cassie?
I feel like, yeah.
He had to be, because I think he signed her and started dating her like at the same time. So I think Diddy had already started dating Cassie. And again, it's like, the tall tees, the white tees, Britney's there. She's got her fedora. Some of the pictures she looks like she's having fun, but some of the pictures she looks like she's not in full control of her faculties. And I just have to wonder, is that one of the alleged, Ciroc bottles that had the special stash in it? I don't know. I can't speculate even, but I do wonder. So the next day rolls around and Britney's rehearsing, and there's a lot of media drumming up. Like, Britney's going to be at the VMAs. Britney's going to do a comeback. Britney, like a drumming up. Britney spotted at rehearsals. Britney, like.
Are you looking forward to Britney doing her big performance? I'm looking forward to Britney. I still love Britney. Even though everything that she's been through, I still love her. So I'm excited to see her now than I would have been a little while back. It's more exciting, right?
Britney could be a huge train wreck or a gigantic train wreck. Right now, it could go either way. I'm putting my money on it being mind-blowingly terrible in a great way.
It's the MTV Video Music Awards right in the middle of the Palms Hotel Casino in Las Vegas. Celebrities gathered to talk about Britney Buzz and their own nominations.
Everybody's just excited to see what she's going to bring. So, I mean, we're no different. We're not an exception. We want to see what she's going to do. I mean, she got to top the snake. She got to top the kiss, so she just got to bring it.
We're really, really excited. We really are hoping for the comeback of the millennium, if not the bi-millennium, whatever you call 2 millenniums.
Genuine. It's genuine. It seems forced. It's genuine.
I mean, we're all talking about it because we all in her personal business. I'm happy that she's doing music tonight so we can get out of her personal business and start getting back to the music. That's what it's about. You know what I mean? I think it's great for her. I think I want to see her do good. I want to see her be the Britney she was. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody's giving her bad press now. But I want her to come out on top and be herself and be good. So I'm rooting for her. She's my label maker.
She's become bigger than herself. You know what I mean? Just from the beginning, it was like this girl with blonde hair who sang and did pop records. And now it's this girl with blonde hair who sang and did pop records, had 2 kids, you know what I mean? Like, we all know her story. And it's at times unfortunate, but at the same time, it's interesting.
We already did several episodes of BJ Investigates on the Britney industrial complex and just how there were like several entire economies that were propped up on just Britney Spears alone. We also mentioned it briefly in the Amanda Bynes coverage as well, but it's like they're drumming up their product to put out on the VMAs, and obviously they were going to sabotage her the whole time.
Anything in the show tonight, or are you just sitting in the audience?
I don't even think I'm going to be in the audience. I'm just in the green room.
I'm just going to sit by the bar and
I'm going to get wasted.
the 2007 Video Music Awards. Now it's time to head inside and see if Britney can have her big comeback.
So there's a few different rehearsals leading up to the performance of Gimme More. There's also speculation over MTV's sabotage with the camera angles. MTV knew what they were doing when they added the wide angle at the last minute. She looks better in a ponytail and jeans. I don't know why they finally released her with this hairstyle and clothes, but Britney is a legend icon anyway. So basically MTV edited the live performance to cut away whenever she did choreography sections and show only the pole dancers, and cut back to Britney when she was transitioning between moves, so it would look like all she did was walk across the stage and grind on her dancers the entire performance. This could have been a huge comeback with such a fresh and danceable song. WTF is the camera being used at the VMA. She looks 15 pounds heavier than she is, and I don't know what happened to her hair, but it went a mess. Her people failed her, and the media made it look way worse than it was. She did perfect performances her whole life and gets 190% and everyone freaks out. She seemed more confident in the ponytail in the dress rehearsal and looked better. This performance was set to fail, and yet it's her most iconic performance. Yes, David. Cameras were not flattering. She was way skinnier than she appeared. Hair and costume were set to fail as well. It was all on purpose without her knowledge or having a say, but still iconic. And she wrote about it in her book, Blackout. The thing I'm most proud of in my whole career came out right around Halloween in 2007. I was supposed to perform Gimme More at the VMAs to help promote it. I did not want to, but my team was pressuring me to get out there and show the world I was fine. The only problem with this plan, I was not fine. Backstage at the VMAs that night, nothing was going right. There was a problem with my costume and with my hair extensions. I hadn't slept the night before. I was dizzy. It was less than a year since I had my second baby in 2 years, but everyone was acting like my not having six-pack abs was offensive. I couldn't believe I was going to have to go out on stage feeling the way I felt. And then I ran into Justin backstage. It had been a while since I'd seen him. Everything was going great in his world, and he was at the top of his game in every way. And he had a lot of swagger. I was having a panic attack. I hadn't rehearsed enough. I hated the way I looked, and I knew it was going to be bad. I went out there and did the best I could at that moment in time, which, yes, granted, was far from my best at other times. I could see myself on video throughout the auditorium while I performed, and it was like looking at myself in a funhouse mirror. I'm not going to defend that performance or say it was good, but I will say that as performers, we all have a bad night. They don't usually have consequences so extreme. You also don't usually have one of the worst days of your life in the same exact place and time that your ex has one of his best. Justin glided down the runway into his performance. He was flirting with the girls in the audience, including one who turned around and arched her back, shaking her breast as he sang to her. When he was sharing the stage with Nelly Furtado and Timbaland, so fun, so free, so light. Later that night, the comedian Sarah Silverman came out on stage to roast me. She said that at the age of 25, I'd done everything worthwhile in my life that I would ever do. She called my two babies, quote, the most adorable mistakes you'll ever see. I didn't hear that until later, though. At the time, I was backstage, sobbing hysterically. The newspapers made fun of my body and my performance. Dr. Phil called it a train wreck. I would like to see him put that outfit on. Even back then, I would like to see him put that outfit on, put them hair extensions in, on his clown ring growth pattern that he has, and go out and perform something. And then we'll compare Britney's performance to his. And he didn't even just have babies. So who's the real train wreck? Bald ass, head ass beat. Yep, gang stalking. It's exactly what it is. The whole performance was sabotaged. Again, Chris Angel, who she had been rehearsing with, who had been all in the media as they had been rehearsing, he ghosted, he backed out, abandoned her, neglected her. And you might be wondering, okay, what's the deal with Vegas? Like, why was Britney all up in the Vegas scene anyway? And good question. The answer is they have been trying to revive Vegas back to its 80s glory for a long time. I don't know if y'all knew this, but Mormons and the mafia set up Las Vegas so they could go over there and do whatever they wanted to do outside of, civilized society. But now it's been reincorporated back into civilized society, and we're uncovering all the debauchery that's been going over there as part of the ordinary course of business. In the mid to late 2000s, they were trying to like drum up the Vegas party scene. They were really focusing on it a lot. Like we just discussed with P. Diddy, 50 Cent, Paris Hilton, all these people coming to Vegas. They didn't have to do that. They lived in LA or they lived in New York or whatever. They were coming there to party and to, I think, advertise Las Vegas so that more people would want to go there. American celebrity culture, like I said, was shifting their attention from the exclusive LA and New York nightclubs. And those nightclubs are also infamous, like the Viper Room, formerly owned by Johnny Depp, and the Bungalow 8. And they were being paid. Don't make no mistake. They were getting paid for these performances and these appearances, opening up the clubs, the grand openings, and all of that. So as a paycheck. And as an observer and pop culture historian, looking back at this time, along the recession and rise of EDM electronic dance music, Las Vegas was also undergoing a sort of rebrand of its own for the upcoming celebrity-obsessed millennial and Gen X crowd. So in the early 2000s and even the mid 2000s, up to the late, up to 2007, 2008, Paris Hilton and Britney Spears were really the north node of the compass. They were directing the crowd in what was cool and what was trendy. So Britney, Paris, P. Diddy, and other famous celebrities at the time were being paid for their appearances, to host parties. It also seems like MTV had started to sink their teeth into Vegas, shifting the venue for the VMAs around that time to Las Vegas from LA, and they would do it at the Palms Casino Resort. And that's where we want to put a little bow around the whole thing here, because there is a complete and total rabbit hole that one day I'm going to go down, and it has to do with these Maloofs.
What have you done to your casino here? It's all gone.
It's all gone. It's a special opportunity, chance of a lifetime, and here we are. And it's crazy, but you got to see the show. I mean, it's probably almost better to watch it on TV because there's so many different things. So I've TiVoed it, and I can't wait to watch it.
We can't go down the whole rabbit hole today, but just know that they are huge names in Las Vegas. They are very rich. They have connections with Larry Rudolph, who was Britney's manager for 20 years, and Irving Azoff, who is the CEO of Ticketmaster / Live Nation / who knows however much else big it's going to get, because they're just going to keep letting them monopolize everything in the world. And that's why y'all got to pay $15,000 to sit at a Taylor Swift concert. But I digress. These Maloofs, they've owned probably people, to be honest, but what do I know? Sports teams, they've owned casinos, resorts. They've been $400 million in debt and somehow survived it. I don't know how. Regular people can't do that. But Britney Spears is strongly associated with these Maloof brothers, and they're like old creeps at this, but they're like old coots. They're like in their 60s at this point, like grandparent age. And what were they doing hanging out with Britney in 2007? It's very weird, but it's like one of them taught her how to play blackjack in Vegas when Britney was 21 years old. So that just goes to show that she's had a connection with this Vegas scene and these Vegas people for a long time. There's another article here that addresses whenever Britney did get married in Las Vegas at the little chapel or whatever, and she was actually staying at the Palms Hotel. The Palms Hotel is owned, or was at the time, by the Maloofs. It's widely known that one of these Maloofs, I guess it was George, they both look so disheveled all the time, hooked Britney up with a lawyer that would help her annul the marriage. But if you listen to Jason Alexander, the other half of that marriage, talk about this story, it wasn't hooking her up with a lawyer. It was a scheme. They had Jamie Spears come in, Lynn Spears come in, other people, Larry Rudolph, everybody was in. Everybody was trying to figure out how to undo this marriage. And we've talked about this before. I believe the reason they were trying to undo the marriage in the first place was because they wanted control of her assets. They wanted control of her brand. It's hard to control somebody whenever they're legally married and their spouse is entitled to some of their assets. So yeah, he hooked her up with a lawyer. I'm not excited about that. It actually makes me suspicious. What lawyer came in and unraveled, probably hooked up himself with Britney Spears and hooked up Jamie Spears with a lawyer, is what I would guess. It's just so hard for me to separate all of the things that we have now found out from these lawsuits, other lawsuits with that Malaysian billionaire Joe Low. He financed The Wolf of Wall Street, which is a debaucherous movie in and of itself. He had Britney Spears jumping out of his 34th birthday cake or 31st birthday party cake during the conservatorship. Someone else legally agreed for Britney, because she couldn't legally, to jump out of a billionaire's birthday cake in Las Vegas. Then we have Britney Spears saying she never went out. All the time she was in Vegas for years, she went out once or twice ever. Like, why did they want her to party all that time in her 20s just to drum up the excitement for Vegas? And then she couldn't even enjoy it by going out whenever she was working as literally a slave in Las Vegas at these people's hotels, at least one of them. It's like, I'll fact check that. I don't know if they own the one she was at, but they like basically own Vegas as far as I'm concerned. And Live Nation, Irving Azoff probably had something to do with all of that. I mean, y'all, the web is unraveling. The web is webbing. And as the more I pull on the little bottom string, it's just uncoming and uncoming. And it's like the people that I'm running into, like now we have this P. Diddy and Britney Spears connection. And it's like, wait, I've read these lawsuits. What Cassie said, she was having to engage in these freak offs for days on end. She would have to get IVs. She was physically hurt. She would have to get IVs because she was so dehydrated from being forced to do this. It was being filmed. It was being recorded. Then we have Lil Rod Jones making the same allegations, all against P. Diddy. And you have a passing out on the floor, Britney Spears in the most vulnerable position of her life at a party where Cassie is. Things to think about. It's just things to think about. And we could close it off with this other clip of Young Miami. I'm just going to show you. I'm going to let her speak for herself.
So how many rounds you be going?
You know.
Baby, let me tell y'all something. On the witch shot. This kiddo go to sleep. I'll be like, God, I'm gonna tell y'all something. For real. I really thought that I was gonna like make him tap out. Like I really thought he was gonna be being out no chance. This kid don't go to sleep. Like I be like, nigga, go to sleep. You gotta be energized, you gotta be charged up like a Tesla.
When you going off the grid with me, you gotta go to sleep for a week.
Yeah, it's definitely giving us sleep.
That's all I really have for today. Make sure you're subscribed and your notifications are on so that you can see the next installment of The Web. It might have something to do with
favorite genre of anecdote. If
Oh,
you
really?
have one, yeah.
Wow. Okay, I've got a lot. I can't tell. So, I can't tell that one either. I mean,
a very interesting theory is going around. A quick deep dive into this conversation of whether P. Diddy was involved in the passing of Brittany Murphy. Hey guys, it's Murad Murali. Hopefully you guys are all doing well today. Back again with another video. If you have not subscribed, guys, click that button. It is daily and consistent content. Comment down below, give this video a thumbs up, and let's get straight into this video without any further ado. So, following the arrest of P. Diddy founder in September 2024, the internet has been full of many theories. Some are fake, some are real, but theories, they remain. One of them specific theories have emerged, and it's in regards to Brittany Murphy, and people believe that P. Diddy had involvement in her passing. And here is a quick deep dive to explain. Now, we all know that Brittany Murphy and Ashton Kutcher dated. Ashton Kutcher was very good friends with Diddy, and along with dealing with divorce rumors due to his Diddy parties past, it's now at the center of another theory. Diddy and Ashton Kutcher's friendship has been highly documented for years, and there are plenty of photos of Brittany with Diddy and Ashton at various red carpets and sporting events. However, according to People, Brittany's husband at the time of her death, Simon Monjack, was also connected to Diddy via his personal trainer. They believe that Brittany's passing from pneumonia, you guys know where I'm going with this, at the age of 32 was a result of Simon owing a personal trainer a lot of money. The theory also points to Diddy's ex and mother of 3 of his children, Kim Porter, who have the same cause of death as Brittany, as more proof of Diddy was involved in her passing. Kim Porter. To add fuel to the fire, Brittany's husband died 5 months later from, you guessed it, the same pneumonia. How did both of them pass away from pneumonia? At the time, the pneumonia was linked to alleged mold in their home, but again, fans of the actress remain very skeptical. According to the coroner's report, Brittany died from pneumonia with secondary factors of severe iron deficiency anemia and multiple drug intoxication. The coroner who created this report was the same coroner who did Kim Porter's report. Interesting. This conspiracy theory gets even more wilder. Why? Because along with connecting Brittany's death with that of Diddy's ex, many are pointing out that the large supply of baby oil that was factually found at P. Diddy's house has everything to do with the passing of these people. It has been revealed, according to Poison Control, that a less common but more serious adverse effect of ingesting baby oil is a form of aspiration pneumonia. Boom. Which occurs if baby oil is breathed into the lungs when it is being swallowed. Many believe that Diddy is involved in some kind of way, and not just with Britney's passing, but also with Kim Porter's passing. Another added, in terms of people commenting, wasn't it a doc of Britney's dad saying that she was supporting her friend coming out with something? I can't remember, but maybe it was something coming out about Diddy. Many conspiracy theories have also linked Diddy to Tupac's death as well as Biggie himself. So this to me is very intriguing, because if we actually look into ingestion of baby oil, it's usually minimally toxic but can cause serious complications, and one of them is aspiration pneumonia. And we know that he has large stashes of baby oil that seems to be poisoned, or baby oil that seems to be used in a toxic way, or baby oil that could potentially have a drug inside them. Lipoid pneumonia is secondary to baby oil aspiration. And so it isn't odd to me that it was the same coroner who had to do Kim Porter's and Brittany Murphy's reports. We focus on Kim Porter a lot, and despite the fact that Diddy's children and Kim Porter's children came out with a strong statement to say that Diddy had no foul play relation to Kim Porter's, I genuinely don't believe. What would the kids know? The kids were barely there. Kim Porter's father gave a statement a couple of days ago and says that the truth will always come out at the end. Does that sound like a father who doesn't believe that Kim Porter was killed by Diddy or his people? Because surely, if anybody, he would flatline deny it, not the children who were not there. To me, it seems like Diddy's children are extremely sheltered. Okay. They don't know what is going on. They've been protected and sheltered and thought the best image of their father and their father only. If Diddy was able to get away with this for 30 to 40 years, then what makes anybody think that Diddy wasn't able to protect his children from seeing any of this? It is beyond wild to me that Diddy's children would immediately flat out deny that any foul play happened with Kim Porter's death, yet they saw the video of Diddy beating up Cassie in the hotel room and dragging her through into the room. And to me, it is interesting because Diddy dated them both. So why was Cassie open to being harmed but not Kim Porter? It doesn't make any sense. But this is very intriguing because Diddy and Ashton Kutcher have a strong relationship. And I said in one of my earlier videos today that all eyes are on Ashton and people are looking at him. He recently came out with an interview to say that he can't reveal certain things that took place, and that's not what you would say if something bad didn't take place. Surely you'd be able to reveal it. They have a strong relationship. And of course, Ashton and Brittany did date for a while, and that's how Diddy met Brittany. And of course, Brittany and her current husband Simon, well, not anymore, of course, had an affiliation to Diddy as well, and money was owed. I doubt that a personal trainer could do this all on his own. Perhaps other people were hired. I wouldn't say that perhaps Diddy was directly involved in all of these deaths, whether it's MJ or Whitney or etc. But perhaps he knows certain suppliers, perhaps he knows certain people, perhaps there is a mafia involved. You know, it's a very long story, but a connect from Diddy can easily be made, because why were there so many bottles of baby oil in your place? And if it's been proven to cause certain forms of, pneumonia, and both Kim Porter and Brittany and Brittany's husband Simon all passed away from pneumonia, make you think. The coroner also, the first one who did Kim Porter's coroner report, also suddenly mysteriously passed away. And not only that, but Corey Gamble, Kris Jenner's partner, was suddenly there at Kim Porter's house when she passed away. And Kanye West said that Corey is a Fed. So it's a huge branch. It's a huge branch, but as you can see, I've made these very easy relations between these people. I would not be surprised if Diddy was involved with Brittany Murphy's passing, because he already, people believe, is involved with Kim Porter's, Tupac's, and Biggie's passing. He also got away with the 1999 shooting, and all of it was blamed on Shine. So if there's so much relation between him and all of these passings, why would Brittany Murphy not be included in that? It seems to be a theory that is going wild. People are discussing it on the internet, and so I thought I would bring this deep dive here to YouTube so that you guys can see what you make of it. Comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are when it comes to this absolute madness of a theory. And again, I did say to you, all eyes are on Ashton Kutcher, which is why people are now looking at who he dated and how they were affiliated to Diddy, and the fact that Ashton was always seen everywhere at these parties. And everybody knows that Brittany Murphy's passing was definitely very odd and didn't make any sense. for them to both pass because they have mold in their home. But surely they both weren't in their home 24/7 anyways. Britney had a flourishing career, was out and about, was busy. I don't think she was even staying at home 24/7. So I don't understand. Surely anybody else who was in the house as guests, staying or visiting frequently, would also have some form of pneumonia if there was mold growing. So it just doesn't add up to me as an excuse. But this theory has some form of substance, let's just say. Subscribe to the channel, comment down below.
Hey, what's up, guys? How y'all doing today? Well, baby, if you are Sean Diddy Combs, the legal community is accusing you of covering up for who's the big fish. Y'all, if you guys don't know, of course, Diddy was sued. Now, Rolling Stones just came out and said 18 companies has distanced themselves. And a part of me was like, yo, does this mean 50 Cent's plan was working? Because 18 companies have completely dropped you or disassociated yourself from them, or disassociated themselves from you as it was. But y'all, I did some digging. And this is the thing that really caught my eye. Even though I think about 18 companies have disassociated themselves, 161 companies have decided to stay. And that's when I started asking myself, why? Why when, and listen, this isn't about whether Diddy is guilty or innocent. From a business standpoint, when you have this much heat around you, it really don't matter whether you are guilty or innocent, baby. We got to step away until we figure out what's going on. You know, again, these aren't friends. These aren't lovers. It literally is like, I am with you to make money. I'm attaching myself to your project because your exposure is supposed to bring more money in. So out of, let's just say 200, well, a little bit under 200 companies, 18 were like, listen, we don't agree. We don't like the way you treat women. We don't like this. We don't like that. But 161 of the companies said, well, we'll just wait and see what happens. And I'm like, why would you attach yourself to a sinking ship, right? And then that's just one part. But then I started thinking about Mace and all those people. I know there's a clip circulating around that's like a few years old, but I'm like, why, when Diddy is at his weakest, more people are not speaking out either from what he did to women or how he screwed over the men? Y'all, we keep looking at women, but it is rumored, again, hasn't been independently verified, but it is rumored that a lot of Diddy's victims were men. And a lot of the ways people were able to get into these really bad 360 deals is because the same way there were models and bottles for men bad boy artists, just like it was for women. I'm just saying, you didn't have to have be a woman to fall victim to Diddy stuff. And some people said he might even like that more. I'm just saying. So why are there people on a free fall, okay, that are still sticking by them? And it can't be, oh, they're just blind. No, they're there to make money. So where do they think the money's from? And look at all the men of Bad Boy and all the people in the industry that are still on the Beyonce mute challenge because Diddy hasn't come forward. And then there's even more, right? Because even after you go after that, right? It's like Diddy and them, at least if you can believe what the streets are saying, still think that they can pull out of this. If you guys haven't noticed, the narrative is moving more and more away from what happened to Cassie to these women are gold diggers. Oh my God, that's just what we did in the 90s or the 2000s. Is it that big? Okay, maybe they keep trying to move the bar. But why is this happening? Well, if you believe the legal community, or at least certain lawyers, and when you read the complaint, they are saying that the reason everybody hasn't abandoned Diddy in droves and run for the hills is because there is a big fish, bigger than Diddy, bigger than anyone, that Diddy and the rest of the industry, Diddy's trying to protect, because this person's even bigger than Diddy. and that the rest of the music industry does not want to get on their bad side, and that these advertisers, not advertisers, these companies that are associating them with Diddy know that if they pull away, they might not be able to do business with this person. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, Diddy's latest accuser, and I know every morning you wake up, there's another one, literally the same one that's being represented by, there's two lawyers, Tyrone A. Blackburn, who is, well, Tyrone Blackburn, I don't know if A is the middle, which is representing two of the victims. And there's also Douglas Wigmore, he represented Cassie, and now he's representing one other victim. There's also another victim that is suing Harvey Pierre, but Diddy and his companies are also. So Diddy got like 5 girls saying stuff about him, right? Let's talk about the one that says that she was age, right? And that she was in a club in Detroit. I'm thinking it's 18 to enter, 21 to drink. She has a club in Detroit. Harvey Pierre literally was looking for an old Fanta orange can because he had a hankering. So I'm not laughing about what happened to her. I'm just laughing about the ridiculous of a Harvey Pierre. Took her into a bathroom, did this, called Diddy on the phone, said, yeah, he'll like you, moved her across state lines. Douglas Wigmore is saying that there is proof of this. But here's where things get interesting, right? Remember the part where they said that they took her into they took her to a studio. Now, Diddy is placed at the scene of crime because there's pictures of the girl sitting on his lap. Douglas Wigmore said that when you see this girl, you have no doubt as to whether she is 18 to enter, 21 to drink. Do you know what I'm saying? In any case, right? Okay, so here's where it gets really juicy. So unfortunately for Diddy, there are pictures placing him at the scene. And there's not any way that you can explain it, because how did she get from Detroit to your studio? We know Harvey Pierre was there. We know Diddy was there. Now, there's been rumors going around that Clive Davis is Diddy's handlers, his protectors. I don't know. Maybe they are. Okay. I don't know. I don't know. I have not been able to verify it, but who am I? Right? Who knows? This story has so many twists and turns, but the real tea is whoever was in that studio with Diddy and Harvey Pierre is said to be so powerful, so all-encompassing that nobody wants to get on their bad side. So who is it? And no, I do not believe that Clive Davis was in the studio with Harvey and Pierre at 4 a.m, smoking crackers and doing whatever. Maybe, but I don't think Clive Davis is so built for that. Baby, he was already in pop, like me mom, pop territory, grandmom and grandpop territory back when this happened. I just can't see it. But listen to what this lawyer has to say about it, because I find this so interesting. And I am going to Google and do some research and try to see if we can place it and place who it is. But whoever is this person that is not named in the lawsuit, they are saying this is Puffy's true protection. This is Puffy's true heavyweight. This is who everybody is still afraid of. This is who the advertisers the other companies associated with Diddy do not want to cut ties on. And this is who Diddy is even trying to see if he has enough money to pay to keep out of the limelight. Y'all, let's get into this. Where's this lawyer's thing? Okay, y'all ready for this? Let's get into this.
These lawsuits very closely, and joins us this morning.
This one was filed under the Gender Motivated Crimes Act. And because the plaintiff here was a...
So Diddy and Bad Boy Business executive Harvey Pierre, they're both named in that lawsuit. But then there's another defendant in this lawsuit as well. But why isn't he named?
Great question. So there's a third defendant. Now, usually, if you don't know the name, you simply refer to them as a John Doe.
Okay.
That was done in the prior lawsuit against that Cassie filed. Here, specifically, they call it a third assailant, and there's a footnote that states they know exactly who it is. So the assumption and the implication is that this person is a major player with major pockets. And specifically, the petition states that they are willing to allow this person to remain anonymous until it gets to the discovery stage.
The latest victim is also represented by the same law firm that represented Cassie.
Not only does her team have all of the knowledge and know-how of, how Cassie received her settlement, but they also know those facts. They're going to know the insurance policy limits because they're suing the same entity regarding Diddy. And so that plaintiff is definitely at a substantial advantage.
Attorney Simone Redwine has been following these lawsuits.
Okay, so that was attorney Simone Redwine, Esquire. Attorney Simone Esquire. She is speaking. Now, you guys know I do disagree. I think that the insurance policies drop them because insurance policies do not cover illegal acts. And there is, it doesn't even matter. We'll talk about that later. You guys, all these rumors that there is a big fish that is being protected. All these rumors that the other shoe hasn't been a drop. At first when I saw all these people coming around to protect Diddy, I thought they were just trying to protect Diddy. But then I was like, why? Diddy is one of the big fishes, but there's somebody even bigger. They were in that studio with Harvey Pierre and Diddy that day. Who could it be? Is it another superstar rapper that doesn't want his image besmirched? Is it another industry person? Is it a Goliath? I am investigating this, but how else do you explain what is going on? Let's even think about the Rolling Stones, where 18 companies have completely cut ties because they find Diddy revulsive. But even if you don't personally like it, like I said, even if you don't personally like them, it doesn't make sense to attach your brand to something. You can literally lay low until the court is over. You are paying them for exposure. And right now they are giving your cup. Do you want Diddy drinking your water, walking around, doing things? Do you? No, you don't. You do not. You just absolutely do not. So what is going on? Why are those 161 companies still sticking by him? Why are they saying, well, we're going to have to wait to see how it turns out? Why hasn't Young Miami completely abandoned him? Why are all his industry friends still coming around? Why does it seem like Diddy is operating like he's going to come back from this? Again, who is Diddy protecting? Again, I've heard the Clive Davis stuff. I just don't think that Clive Davis was in the studio with those people. I just don't. So who is it? Who's the mystery person? You guys, I'm going to be up all night researching to try to get to the bottom of this. Best
P. Diddy has made it clear he plans to fight the federal charges he now faces, meaning we'll likely see his case head to trial. And when that happens, what can we expect? Prosecutors believe they have a strong enough case to bring the charges. But what about testimony? Can we expect any star witnesses to take the stand? And what about Diddy's defense? His attorney says Diddy is clamoring to take the stand to tell his side of the story. Can we really expect to hear it? We're breaking it all down with legal analyst and attorney Dina Saig-Dahl. I'm Sierra Gillespie, and this is Law and Crime News. It's been nearly 1 year since P. Diddy's initial fall from grace, when a series of civil lawsuits blew the lid off his alleged criminal enterprise. It all started with Diddy's ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, known professionally as the singer Cassie. Cassie's lawsuit laid out some bombshell allegations against the once beloved music icon, claiming that over the course of their years-long relationship, Diddy physically, verbally, and sexually assaulted Cassie. Her lawsuit gave harrowing examples, saying Diddy forced her to carry illegal firearms, beat her so severely she had to hide out for days at a time to let the bruises heal, and even that Diddy forced her to have sex with prostitutes after drugging her. On top of that, Diddy recorded the interactions. Cassie's lawsuit was settled only 1 day after it was filed, but the shocking allegations paved the way for a slew of additional lawsuits. Since last November, 11 civil suits have been filed against Diddy, listing out allegations that Cassie made in her lawsuit. Multiple plaintiffs say Diddy drugged them or forced them to drink alcohol, sexually assaulted or beat them, and sometimes even recorded all this. The civil suits make clear none of this was consensual. Diddy's former producer Rodney Jones, known professionally as Lil Rod, made some of these same accusations and argued his allegations can be proven with audio and video recordings. All this is likely what led to the federal raids on 2 of Diddy's homes in Los Angeles and Miami on March 25th of this year. That's really when we first got an inkling that something big was coming. And nearly 6 months later, here we are. P. Diddy facing multiple federal sex crimes charges, including racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Diddy appeared in New York court after his arrest, where he pleaded not guilty to all these charges. He also requested bail twice and was denied twice. He's now being held in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, awaiting trial. Okay, I know you're multitasking while you have our videos on. And if you're out running errands, listen up, this one can help. I have to tell you about this free app called Upside that gets you cash back on daily essentials. It's something I use now. Diddy's team is expected to put up a fight. His defense, headed by renowned attorney Mark Agnifilo, has made multiple comments to the media since Diddy's arrest, saying Diddy maintains his innocence and is ready to tell his story. In fact, just this week, Agnifilo said Diddy plans to testify when it comes time to trial, so we could see the defendant himself take the stand in his own case. On the prosecution side of things, we will likely see some accusers like Cassie or Lil Rod. As we previously reported, ahead of Diddy's arrest, Cassie began working with the federal investigators on the case. It's still unclear if Cassie testified at the grand jury hearings that led to Diddy's indictment, but it's definitely possible. And that also means she could be called to testify at the trial too. In the federal indictment against Diddy, prosecutors refer to someone only identified as victim 1. So that person's name wasn't listed, and we can't entirely be sure who it is, but it's definitely possible that victim 1 is Cassie. What's interesting about Diddy's indictment is that it only lists that one victim, even though we know there are nearly a dozen accusers who say Diddy abused them. So will we only hear from victim 1, or will even more survivors be called to testify for the prosecution? And will Diddy actually take the stand? To answer some of those questions and infer what we could expect at his federal trial, we sat down with legal analyst and attorney Dina Saigdal. So what's interesting about this case is at Long Crime, we're used to watching live streams of the trials, usually state cases where we can follow along. But obviously this is a federal case, so we're not going to be able to have our eyes inside the courtroom. We're not really going to know and hear the testimony. But how important is the testimony in a federal trial like this?
I mean, the testimony is key. We're going to have reporters, though, in the courtroom who we're going to see live tweeting of the testimony, recaps at the end of the day. I mean, Harvey Weinstein, that was a state case, but it was in New York, and New York is limited if any cameras are allowed in the courtroom. So it was the same idea. We didn't get to hear the witnesses on the stand, but we got to hear what they said, through the reporting. And that will be what is happening here. So of course, it's maybe not as great for us because, as a viewer, we can't analyze their credibility, let's say, like the juror can, because we can't literally see them testify. We'll be able to hear the content of what they testify. The court may also make public quickly the transcripts of what the witnesses said in order to keep people informed. That's what happened during the Trump criminal trial. They posted the transcripts fairly quickly. So we will get a sense of what is said, but it does take it away when we don't get to see it in the moment and really honestly decide for ourselves what we think of that witness or another witness.
We're still so early on because Diddy was just arrested last week. We don't even have a trial date. So it's all speculation for now. But he has pleaded not guilty and says he plans to move forward to trial. And that kind of gets the wheels spinning, thinking what's going to happen. And of course, you just mentioned witness testimony is so vital. So let's start with the prosecution side of things. Who do you think would be someone very important for them to call a star witness, perhaps?
Well, it's interesting. Just today we heard from P. Diddy's attorney saying that he is going to testify at the trial, which
would be huge news if in fact he does testify. He would be the star. If the defendant ever testifies, the whole trial really comes down to their testimony, because at the end of the day, how credible is he? And is the jury going to buy his story or not? That's what the trial comes down to. And all the other witnesses become less important. Whether or not that is just posturing on the attorney's side, trying to maybe change the PR narrative around it, whether or not that will actually happen, we'll wait and see. But the defense attorney is saying that his client is clamoring to testify. He wants to tell a story that is a story of love and heartbreak, clearly trying to change people's opinions around this case. But if he does end up testifying, which really every lawyer would advise against something like that, especially in this kind of a case. But if he does, he will be far and away the witness that the jurors most care about.
Obviously, it's going to be up to Diddy himself whether he will testify. But hearing from his attorney, it sounds like Diddy wants to testify, not just his attorney wanting him to testify. So if and when that does happen, we obviously have a long time ahead before the actual trial. Do you think that they would start preparations to kind of train him on what to say or the narrative they're going to use?
On the one hand, it is helpful if they clearly have a client that wants to testify and they know this so far in advance, they can shape their entire defense around the context of him testifying and kind of build that narrative that they want to tell the jurors and know what he's going to be testifying to and include that, let's say, in their defense, their opening. So to that extent, that I would say it's more helpful for them to have that plan this far in advance rather than a late minute, Hail Mary where a defense decides to testify. And at that point, it's just kind of like being thrown in instead of being worked around. But I'm not convinced that it's a true statement and not a PR statement. I mean, he's a very famous person, obviously, and he is having more than one trial. He's having a trial of public opinion. Even if he were acquitted, does he ever want to be in business again? Does he ever want to associate, frankly, with people again? He has to win that public image trial, let's say, and then also the trial of his life, of the conviction. And there are more than one trials going on. And they also, quite frankly, feed into another, because every potential juror is now hearing the attorney say he has this story of heartbreak and love. And he sounds like an innocent man, right? The lawyer is making him sound like an innocent man, that he wants to tell his story so badly, like as if there's a piece of this story we don't know about that will exonerate him. So that in itself is helpful to P. Diddy. Even if he doesn't testify, that narrative is out there. Maybe people start to wonder, especially jurors, maybe there's another side to this. So, and to your point that we are so far from a trial, it's not going to happen for a year or two, most likely. Will anybody remember that he said it 2 years ago? Like, it's not a really difficult thing for him to say, he listened to his attorneys after all, and we advised him, but putting that kernel out there that there's another side to the story is effective. It's effective on multiple fronts.
So TBD right now, whether we're actually going to hear from him when it comes time for trial months down the line. But you spoke about how most defense attorneys would advise their clients not to take the stand. We often hear about it that they're taking the stand in some sort of self-defense situation. Obviously, it's ultimately up to the client, to the defendant rather, themselves. But oftentimes they're advised not to. Why is this? Because they're subject to cross-examination?
Yes. So essentially, once you start to testify, if you start to get into things around, let's say, your character, you then end up opening the door to a cross-examination that maybe otherwise wouldn't be allowed in. And they can go into your past, like your character evidence, like whenever things in your past that you have done, besides even like prior convictions, but but also prior convictions, but things that you've done in your past that wouldn't normally come in because they'd be considered prejudicial. But during testimony, you're testifying about, you end up veering into like how you're a good person, or, why you as a person would never do something like that. You then open that door into like character evidence, as they said, and a lot more can come in to try to cross-examine about, oh, well, maybe you're that kind of person because you did X, Y, and Z. So it's, tricky in that way to have, first of all, like your testimony be so limited to not have that happen. Also, if you testify and then you're found convicted, you are seen as having perjured yourself, and your sentence can be more. That might not be as big of an issue here because a sentence would be, I think, life anyway by the time there's so many charges against him with high sentences, but that's also a consideration. Your sentence would be increased. And also at the end of the day, like your likability becomes maybe too important. Let's say a defendant who actually is innocent, but he comes across like a jerk, like that jury will maybe convict the person more likely because they didn't like him or they just didn't believe him. It becomes a little bit too much about, what the jury thinks about that defendant rather than did the prosecutor prove the case. Even though it should always be about did the prosecutor prove the case. But hey, if you have the defendant on the stand and you say, I didn't do this, does the jury essentially believe you or not? That ends up being kind of what the jury, if they believe you, great. And if they don't, you're going to get convicted, maybe even if the rest of the evidence wasn't that strong against you.
It remains to be seen for now whether Diddy will actually take the stand, which we're all waiting and watching for that. But by all accounts, the defense is putting together a strong case. They basically have come out and said, we are going to fight. So even if Diddy doesn't take the stand to testify, obviously they're going to call other people. What sort of people do you think that they would call as witnesses? Other associates or people who could speak positively about Diddy?
Yeah, I mean, and this is the tricky part, is going into like character witnesses. They don't want to necessarily bring in people who can just speak to his character, because then you can uncross, have witnesses for the prosecution about character. I think at the end of the day, this is going to be a very hard case to defend if indeed they have the amount of video evidence that prosecutors say they have. It's very hard to rebut video evidence with witness testimony, because the jurors will have seen maybe a really graphic and violent scene, let's say, right? Like, for example, the video we all saw with Cassie Ventura with P. Diddy really severely beating her in the hotel. His lawyer has already, said he has an explanation for this. I don't know if anybody can really explain that in a way that's going to satisfy a jury. And that's the problem with eyewitness testimony or testimony. If he has somebody on the stand who tries to say an explanation for what the jurors are seeing by video, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. So if it's true that the videos are what they have, I think the best argument that Diddy is going to have is that everything was consensual. It might be really bad what you saw, but it was all consensual. Hey, especially if we're talking about adults, he's not being charged with a minor. This might, be beyond what your moral standards are, but consenting adults can do whatever, to an extent, what they want in this country. Like, that's essentially going to be his defense. And so witnesses who maybe say, yes, I know this alleged victim, and she told me that she was excited about this or okay with this, that kind of testimony, I think, having to do with like their consent is probably their only avenue for a defense. I don't know if that's possible, if they have that. Certainly if they had like text evidence to that extent, that will be more helpful. But that's, it's going to be a very hard case to defend if they do have more video. If the Cassie Ventura video that we saw is just the tip of the iceberg, it's going to be very hard for him to defend this case.
Talking about Cassie Ventura specifically, because she's the one who kind of broke the floodgates on all of this. Her lawsuit filed almost a year ago came out swinging with some pretty crazy accusations that now allegedly are backed up with a lot of video evidence. So I'm wondering right away, do we think the prosecution would call on Cassie as some sort of star witness to recount, unfortunately, this really troubling time, but in order to support their case?
I mean, the indictment does repeat a lot of what she said in that lawsuit, which makes you think that she testified at the
Revolutionary salute to our brother Vincent Brown for the donation to the war chest. Revolution is a way of life. You know, I absolutely appreciate the love, family. Salute.
Grand jury, and that evidence was a big part of why they indicted him. And if that's the case, because it matches so much the lawsuit and the indictment, then prosecutors will have to call her. And it will be tough that these, alleged victims are going to have to repeat, in court, in open court, even if it's not televised, in open court, the things that they say happened to them, which is really intense, graphic things. But that is unfortunately going to be a very necessary part to convict him, is to prove those crimes. And they're going to need that witness testimony from her and others.
There are 11 civil lawsuits in total that have been filed against P. Diddy in the past year. So that's dozens of allegations alone on the civil side of things that kind of trickled into the criminal side of things. So we're assuming that Cassie is going to take this stand. But what about these other accusers or survivors? Do you think multiple of them will be called to testify?
It depends how many of the victims are actually part of the crime that they're charging, and how many of the 11 are going to just be testifying to this kind of like pattern of abuse that he had. So that we will kind of have to still wait and see. But there, if they end up only including 1 or 2, I don't think you'll have like 8 additional witnesses. But we might be the reverse, where there's like 6 that are included in the charges, and let's say 2 additional witnesses.
The reason we've been talking about Diddy for so long is because obviously these civil lawsuits, and then way back in March, 6 months ago, 2 federal raids were executed and a lot of things were taken from Diddy's home. We kind of have a little bit of insight now that we've seen the indictment, 1,000 bottles of baby oil we heard about, but also the electronic evidence that we've been talking about this entire time. So I'm wondering if on top of this, investigators are going to be called to the stand. Maybe the Homeland Security agents who were going through Diddy's home to testify to what they were finding. Do you think that's possible?
Yes, I think we always have those type of witnesses. They tend to be in the beginning. They tend to be a little bit more dry, but they're very necessary because they authenticate the evidence that was collected. And they have to tell the jury that, yes, this is where we found these bottles, and it was transported in a way that it wasn't tainted, and the whole chain of custody. So we will see, the members of law enforcement, the Department of Homeland Security, those types of officials testifying as to what they found, where they found it, and how they kept it securely in order for it to not be tainted.
Sometimes in trials, we also see expert witnesses, whether they're a mental health expert, psychologist, or psychiatrist, speaking to the potential mindset of the defendant or different people involved. Is that something we could also see, expert witnesses?
That's a good point. There tends to be expert witnesses. I don't know in this case if his defense will be, something dealing with mental health. Possibly, I think his defense is going to be more around consent, because he hasn't really, he lives a very public life, and he hasn't posted anything about mental health. We haven't seen him go into any kind of a treatment centers, but they're going to try everything they can, like absolutely. But it is up to the judge whether or not an expert testimony can come and testify. And if you're literally just pulling a Hail Mary and there really has not any basis for it, a judge isn't going to allow it. So it's, he lives a public life, but also a private life. So it's possible behind the scenes he has some sort of diagnosis, or he has something that they're going to want to try to introduce. But just because they want to try it doesn't mean that they necessarily will be able to. So we'll have to kind of wait and see. We'll definitely see a motion to that extent if they plan on introducing something.
After Diddy's arrest, he pleaded not guilty to the federal charges against him. A statement from his legal team reads, quote, Sean Diddy Combs is a music icon, self-made entrepreneur, loving family man, and proven philanthropist who has spent the last 30 years building an empire, adoring his children, and working to uplift the Black community. He is an imperfect person, but is not criminal. To his credit, Mr. Combs has been nothing but cooperative with this investigation, and he voluntarily relocated to New York last week in anticipation of these charges. Please reserve your judgment until you have all the facts. These are the acts of an innocent man with nothing to hide, and he looks forward to clearing his name in court. Diddy is expected back in court on October 9th. We'll bring you the updates then, and of course, whatever develops before that next hearing. Reporting for Long Crime, I'm Sierra Gillespie.
Honeys, so I read Kim Porter's book. This woman went through so much. This book had me in a chokehold.
Kim Porter's secret book about Diddy has been released, and it's currently #1 on Amazon. It has tons of nasty stories about Diddy and scary moments that Kim survived. So let's get into it. It's time that we talk about the book supposedly written by Kim Porter that's #1 on Amazon, despite her kids denouncing it, calling it fake. Rest in peace, Kim Porter. I hope there is justice brought to your death throughout this trial, because there's no doubt in my mind that Diddy had something to do with it. And for years, there's been talks about this book going around, this mysterious book that Kim Porter was writing about Diddy that ultimately led to her death. A newly published memoir is claiming to be written by Kim Porter, but it's being called out as fake by Diddy's attorney, of course. You think I'm going to believe this man who's providing so many excuses for Diddy? They're not even making sense. Actually, he was asked about all those lube bottles that were found during the raid. Thousands of bottles of lube and baby oil. His attorney just put out a statement saying that he buys them in bulk, like most Americans do. Now, Mr. Mark Attorney, please do not try to compare Diddy to any other normal American. The book is titled Kim's Lost Words, A Journey for Justice from the Other Side. It was published on September 6th after Diddy was indicted, so the timing is suspicious. While I do want to read Kim's story and I want her to get justice, I do think it's weird when we see music or books come out from people who are deceased.
Honeys, so I read Kim Porter's book. I literally binge read it yesterday. I sat down, it came in, and I was like, the best $35 I spent for 60 pages. Woo! This woman went through so much. Now, me being a domestic survivor, there were a lot of very triggering points, but there's something that she spoke about when we go through abuse that is the cycle of that we stay in. I'm about to go through this book and give you all a preview, a review, whatever y'all want. Listen, this book had me in a chokehold.
Now, in a brief sample of the 58-page piece, it's notably filled with typos and inaccuracies, detailing alleged disturbing and graphic, intimate encounters with Diddy and other well-known celebrities. The cover photo features a photo of the model who died at the age of 47 of pneumonia, which I don't believe. It's written by a guy named Todd Guzze, G-U-Z-Z-E. It's very close to Guzzle, but we're going to call him Todd. He actually put it under the pseudonym Jamal T. Millwood. Now, I want to go through some of the claims we get from this book. First off, there are claims of him getting intimate with underage boys. Another claim of Diddy having tapes that are inappropriate, claims that he got physical with people, including Kim Porter, stories about him having groups of people over to do adult things, his involvement in the shooting involving J-Lo at that nightclub that I'm waiting for J-Lo to speak up, and then finally engaging in three-ways and swapping partners with very popular, well-known celebrities.
Anyway, in the book, there's some disturbing stories, including the fact that when Kim and Sean Combs were together, P. Diddy, they started having threesomes. And at first, threesomes started with just girls. And then after a while, the first threesome they had with a guy included Kim, P. Diddy, and Kim Porter's ex-husband, Al. Like, that was the first time that threesome happened, which already just seems like such an awkward scenario. But she says in the book that the threesome pretty quickly turned into a twosome with P. Diddy and Al. Like, she didn't feel like she was involved. So she like got up to leave and he was like, oh no, baby, come back. But she was like, no, this is weird. She also says in the book that she had gone into his safe and found loads of video evidence of him with other guys, and the fact that there were like really big names in there, including people that we know that would shock us, and then other big names in the industry that like are quite high up. And a lot of the reasons why people think P. Diddy had something to do with Kim Porter's death is because she was going to release this book right before she died. Also, before Kim Porter died, when she broke up with P. Diddy, she started dating someone, and that person also just suddenly died of pneumonia. So like, there just seems to be a pattern here.
You know what's wild? You could be walking down the street or headed to the grocery store, and then bam, you're in an accident. Suddenly you're dealing with injuries, bills, and an insurance company that's doing everything in its power to give you the bare minimum. It's gotta feel so frustrating. Insurance companies always seem to pull the same tricks, offering you the lowest Diddy, who would be after Kim Porter. I mean, you guys see how silent the celebrities are being now. Nobody wants to be dragged down into this. As far as Kim's estate, it looks like her family is exploring all their options. And it looks like they're going to go after this publisher, Todd Guzzle. I can't stand that last name. Guzzle? Guz? Guz? I think it's Guz. Sorry to any of the Guzzes out there. Kim Porter never wrote a book, this person is claiming, which I mean, there's a lot of rumors of this book, so I do feel like there's a book that exists, and maybe this is it. But of course, the family is trying to write off everything. Now, Todd's claiming that he believes this book is real, but it's real to him and from what he knows. He claims he got it from a source who was well connected to Diddy and Kim Porter. So from what he knows and what he's read, he truly believes that this book is an accurate depiction. Now, of course, there have been rumors for a long time about Kim Porter and her death, and how a lot of people, including myself, believe it's a possible homicide. Although these are rumors, the family continue to dispel, and the kids don't like it. This report claims Diddy's 4 children with Kim Porter are fed up with the conspiracy theories and online rumors suggesting their father had anything to do with her tragic death. All 4 children came together to put out a statement saying that all of these rumors are really hurtful, especially when they've already lost their mother, now they're losing their father. In a joint statement, they say it's been hard to reconcile how their mom Kim was taken from them too soon, but quickly dismiss any unfounded or unproven theories that Diddy was involved in her death, writing that there was no foul play. Maybe they're brainwashed. I mean, with a father like Diddy, I'm sure they are. Anyone claiming to have a manuscript is misrepresenting themselves. Please understand that any so-called friend speaking on behalf of our mom or her family is not a friend. They continue, we are deeply saddened that the world has made a spectacle of what has been the most tragic event of our lives. Our mother should be remembered for the beautiful, strong, kind, and loving woman she was. Now, while a lot of people are being silent, Al B. Sure is speaking up. A week after the arrest of Diddy, it looks like the singer Al B. Sure took to Instagram to detail what he claims is a vast conspiracy around the 2018 death of Kim Porter. Al is saying the exact opposite of what her children are saying, which makes the situation just that much messier, saying in a nutshell, Kimberly was alleged taken from us because she set on course to accomplish what Cassie did by igniting this fire that brings us here today. Al suggests that everyone who was around Kim Porter's home, particularly any publicists, should be questioned by law enforcement as he accused them of a conspiracy to prevent Kim's memoir from being published. He alleged this involves swapping the pages of her book with others, so inflammatory details were never published. He claims that this book, Kim's Lost Words, was actually saved on a hard drive. He also claims that he's been trying to expose this situation for years, but ignored by authorities, probably because the LAPD, they have it seems like what I would say alleged a deal with Diddy. In 2023, he fell into a coma after being intubated while in the hospital for multiple illnesses. It's interesting because he had so many illnesses, he ended up on a ventilator for 38 days. Pretty much almost died, which makes me question, did someone try to set him up?
This entire situation is very unfortunate. There's no good outcome. There's no good with any of this. So I just want to make sure we keep the young people in prayer, keep them uplifted. This is a very difficult time. You don't want to see anyone go through anything, but people have to handle what they have to handle, whatever situations they get themselves into.
In 4 Instagram posts, he refers to allegedly stolen notes meant to go into her memoir and makes claims that her devices, including her computer, have disappeared, suggesting some type of cover-up surrounding the book and her death. Now, we did get footage recently of Diddy getting arrested in New York, and you guys know he's being held currently there. If you guys want to go ahead and watch this footage together, let's go ahead and react.
This morning, watch how federal agents took Sean Diddy Combs into custody. He's seen in this video entering the Park Hyatt Hotel in Midtown Manhattan with others when agents from Homeland Security Investigations approach and separate him. They place Combs under arrest and lead him out the front door in handcuffs. His lawyer said Combs had come to New York 2 weeks earlier with the intention of turning himself in. He did not expect the agents to be waiting at his hotel last Monday night.
Of course he wasn't. He was out at the park with people like smoking like blunts and trying to live his last day of freedom. Either way, there's going to be a lot of reporting on Diddy, and we are staying on top of it. So make sure you guys are subscribed and tune in for a new video.
It's breaking news. Diddy adopted a white child because I felt that you could, enjoy also having a black parent to take care of you and help you out.
Guys, Diddy's case is getting crazier by the day. The feds just dropped some disturbing news, and this time it's all about Diddy's adopted daughter, Ava Baroni Combs, and the truth about what really went down when she suddenly disappeared. Whew, y'all, this story is beyond wild, and actually, it is straight up horrific. But not only that, the details coming out about Ava's case reveal that even Diddy's sons aren't innocent. They were allegedly involved from the get-go. Sadly, this evidence was there right from the first video when Diddy introduced Ava Baroni as his adopted white child. What the feds are revealing is nothing short of shocking. There is so much going on behind the scenes, and it is even darker than we thought.
What they're looking for, because it was going on the premises of sex, they're looking for pictures of girls that may appear to be underage.
So we all know that Diddy's case has single-handedly been sending shockwaves through the industry, but people didn't know just how bad this situation was until he was arrested. You see, when he was still out and free, so many people were afraid to talk because Diddy has been on record not twice threatening people that he can make them disappear. In fact, one of the reasons he has been denied bail twice, even after presenting a $50 million bond, putting up his house and his mom's house, but the prosecutors are afraid he will intimidate a witness. It has now come to public attention that one such case that Diddy went to great lengths to conceal was the disappearance of his rumored adopted daughter, Ava Baroni Combs. One of Diddy's greatest undoings was being mean to his staff. Yet these are people who were stuck in his business 24/7. Interestingly, these are the same people now coming out with receipts to expose him. One such person is Gene Deal, aka Uncle Deal, who was Diddy's bodyguard through the 1990s. They had a major fallout, and those who know Uncle Gene will tell you he has never shied away from revealing Diddy's deeds. Every time this man opens his mouth, a new bombshell drops. But what he's revealing this time about Diddy's short-lived adoption of Ava is about to implicate Diddy even more. But not only that, he revealed way more dirty secrets, which not only exposed Diddy, but a whole lot of other bigwig celebrities and high-profile officials. We'll get into all that later, but for now, let's just start from the beginning.
Craziness, man. And you know what's so crazy is, bro, that all these stories has been around the industry for a long time. All these industry people know that Diddy been acting like this and doing this.
So back in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, Diddy came out of nowhere and announced to the world that he had adopted a white girl, Ava Baroni Combs. Like, for real, out of the blue, this little girl was suddenly a part of the Combs clan. He even went live on IG, proudly showing her off. But then again, it was so random that so many people didn't see it. And a majority have even forgotten about Ava. That could explain why no one has asked about Ava until Diddy's arrest.
No, what's your last name?
name?
Ava Combs.
What's your other last name?
Ava Baroni.
Eva Baroni Combs? Yes, it's breaking news. Diddy adopted a white child. I want you to tell them the story about how I adopted you. But you still have beautiful parents but you're my child also. Please tell the story.
So, I was on the streets, and then Papa Combs decided that he would like to be a caring man. So then he saw me and decided to pick me up and said to come inside and play with the kids.
She was all like, "Hi, I'm Ava. I'm a Scorpio," as if she was introducing herself on Tinder or something. Look at this now. But you can't help but notice how awkward and uncomfortable Ava was in the company of Diddy and all those men in the room. But nobody really questioned it back then because we didn't know what we know now. There were rumors here and there, but there was no evidence, so it all sounded like industry beef or something. Furthermore, Diddy was like a small god back then and a role model to so many. So it kind of looked so noble that he saw a kid beside the road, asked them to hop into the car, and decided to adopt them. But the rest of this live stream revealed something we all missed. Here, take a look.
Ava, that's like a little bit like borderline suspect. I don't want nobody, we want to get it clear. I adopted you like Madonna adopted kids and everybody else adopted kids, Charlize Theron, everybody that's ever adopted Sandra Bullock. I adopted you because I felt that you could, enjoy also having a black parent to take care of you and help you out. So just clarify, because it's crazy out here online. So I played with the kids, and I got permission from your mother, and to say all of that, just make it, because it's crazy out here.
Diddy was literally telling on himself and explaining over and over and over again when no one had accused him of anything. He somehow felt the need to make it clear that he had Ava's permission to have her in his home, and even made her say all of that on record, probably to use this as evidence if he was ever accused of coercing her to be there.
Well, I met Jesse and Delilah when I was 6 months old.
6 months.
And then we basically are sisters, all four of us. So.
6 months is great.
I always come over.
Yes. And it's Ava Baroni Combs. Come on. Let's go.
Diddy made it sound like Ava was a needy child that he took in, and this made sense at the time. Guys, remember, it was during the COVID pandemic and things were super tough. Even I would have appreciated being adopted by a celebrity billionaire. But then, just as fast as Ava appeared, she vanished. No more posts, no updates, no image of her in the family photos or videos, nothing. And now Gene Deal is coming through with really heartbreaking news. First of all, according to Gene, Diddy wasn't really invested in adopting this kid. Not at all. There's more to the story. Ava's disappearance might not have been so innocent. Gene hinted that Diddy might have used Ava for some cheap PR points during the pandemic to make himself look like a hero, but didn't quite give her the love that she deserved. And once the camera stopped rolling, Ava was out. Just gone. But he didn't just cut her loose. Gene is alluding that Diddy did some seriously shady stuff with Ava, made tapes of her, and then got rid of her. Remember, guys, a few months ago, Homeland Security raided Diddy's homes in LA and Miami. That's when people knew this case was high profile. Even before the raid, Diddy had all sorts of lawsuits flying his way, starting with Cassie's case, but all of them were civil cases. But when Homeland rolls in like that, it was officially a criminal case. And y'all know Homeland doesn't just pull up on random cases unless they've got some serious dirt coupled with tons of evidence on someone. It was actually after this raid that Diddy was shaken because he now knew his time was up. Both Gene Deal and the feds have hinted that this raid was tied to Diddy's alleged trafficking allegations, which is alleged to be exactly what he did to Ava Baroni. Gene went even further, strongly suggesting that there might be some questionable footage of Ava out there in Diddy's freak-offs, and the feds are supposedly sniffing around trying to uncover what really went down. If these tapes exist, they could unravel a whole different level of scandal for Diddy, because the cops wouldn't need more proof for the trafficking rumors.
They're looking for, because it was going on the premises of sex trafficking. They're looking for pictures of girls that may appear to be underage in a sexual context. Like they in a act. That's what they're looking for. So now they're going to go through all those devices. If somebody got any kind of weird fetishes that they got little kids or little girls or something like that in any kind of pictures or any kind of photos that they took out of there.
On top of that, people are beyond pissed that Diddy dared to mention Madonna's adoption as he was justifying his decision to adopt Ava. For those who might have missed the saga, apparently Madonna didn't follow the proper channels when adopting those kids. Even as of 2023, several reports have confirmed that pop icon Madonna is being accused of human T and S exploiting children by a charity organization called the Ethiopian World Federation. According to these reports, Madonna lied to the parents of these kids that she was taking them abroad to offer them a quality American education, only to end up adopting them. So for Diddy to use Madonna's case as he was explaining himself has been a massive red flag now that people are breaking down every bit of this video. But it gets more interesting. In true attorney fashion, Diddy's lawyers were up early the following day trying to sanitize Diddy's name when no one asked them to. They claimed that the feds were just out and about trying to cause drama, make Diddy look guilty, and tarnish his public image. His attorney wrote, "This unprecedented ambush paired with advanced coordinated media presence leads to a premature rush to judgment of Mr. Combs and is nothing more than a witch hunt based on meritless accusations made in civil lawsuits. There has been no finding of criminal or civil liability with any of these allegations. Mr. Combs is innocent and will continue to fight every single day to clear his name." But then a federal officer replied by saying, "We believe that there is a disturbing history of S trafficking. We are responding to concrete, detailed, explicit allegations. This is not random. We didn't choose his name out of a hat. We had allegations that we are following up on." Best believe if the feds are on your case based on allegations, your goose is cooked. Loves, safe to say, this was the point where Diddy's official downfall started. And even he was shaken because shortly after that, word on the street was that Diddy was trying to sell some of his property and that he was going broke after having to settle so many lawsuits that cost him millions of dollars. But then the lawsuits just kept cropping up, some dating as far back as the late 1990s, like the lady he shot during a night out with his then girlfriend, J-Lo. Next thing we know, Diddy was trying to flee the country. He and his team knew he had done so much damage and the feds were closing in on him. So maybe his attorneys advised him that leaving the US was the only way he'd be able to stay out of prison, but the feds caught wind of that too and banned him from leaving. Even at the time of Diddy's arrest, not only was his passport taken, but even those of his family members, including his 1-year-old kid. Imagine being such a high-profile, hardcore criminal that even your toddler isn't allowed to leave the country. People have been super curious whether that Homeland Security raid was tied to Ava. And sadly, y'all, it was. My goodness, what did Diddy and his sons do to that poor girl? Let's talk about Diddy's sons, Justin and Christian, for a minute. If you didn't know, his sons have also been wrapped up in so many accusations, not just Ava's. But flashback to 2020 on that live, notice that other than Diddy, it's only men in the room. Ava is the only girl, a young one at that.
I'm a Scorpio.
No. What's your last name?
Ava Combs.
What's your other last name?
Ava Baroni.
Eva Baroni Combs? Yes, it was breaking news. Diddy adopted a white child.
So people have been wondering why Diddy's video only featured his sons and not his daughters. Ava herself had mentioned looking forward to hanging out with Diddy's daughters, so it didn't make sense why they weren't there. This was a big moment, and every family member should have been present. But no, his daughters were at home safe and protected while he exposed someone else's helpless daughter to God knows what. Ugh! Still can't get over how Ava was so uneasy in that video. Sure, Ava did meet Diddy's twins, Jesse and Delilah, but after that, she just seemed to have disappeared into thin air. And to think that Diddy had her calling him Papa Combs. Anyways, back to Diddy's sons, Justin and Christian. First of all, these two are notoriously on record for protecting their father like their lives depend on it. And it does. In case y'all didn't know, both of them have been mentioned in separate lawsuits. So it seems like this weird energy has been hovering around the whole family. First of all, these two have always been called out for being spoiled Nepo babies who have gotten into all sorts of unnecessary trouble just because of who their father was untouchable. But let's narrow it down to their connection with their father's current woes, and OMG, it is not looking good. The apple sure doesn't fall far from the tree. Christian's been keeping up his public persona, staying in the music and fashion game, but that hasn't stopped the rumors from swirling. He's been linked to some of Diddy's more outrageous parties, and people have been speculating whether he had any involvement in those behind-the-scenes dealings. Though there is no solid evidence yet, his flashy lifestyle, from private jets to high-profile parties, has his fans side-eyeing him like he could be in on all of this too, because he is literally living dangerously, just like his father. Justin Combs, on the other hand, has been living it up as the college boy turned influencer. But even he hasn't escaped the drama. Diddy's legal team is reportedly and allegedly working overtime to clear him of any connection to his father's parties and evil dealings. But he's likely to be questioned about what he knows concerning the situation. From his football days at UCLA to his party boy persona, Justin's been connected to his dad's brand, which makes him an easy target for scrutiny. And he already is. People want to know if Justin was ever at any of those parties or involved in business schemes that are now under investigation. But it gets worse. Apart from Diddy's current legal battles, the much hushed topic of the demise of his partner, Kim Porter, has resurfaced again. Those who have kept up to date with this case know that even though Kim passed while at home with Diddy and her cause of death is ruled pneumonia, some people have always smelled foul play, and honestly, you can't blame them. This case is back in full force again, especially now that a book has been released called Kim's Lost Words. The book apparently has diary entries written by Kim painting a horrific side of Diddy that she had to endure while they were together. But guess who's defending their father and demanding that this should stop because their father is innocent? Yep, Diddy's sons. They even claimed that the book wasn't real. In a joint statement, they said claims that our mom wrote a book are simply untrue. She did not, and anyone claiming to have a manuscript is misrepresenting themselves. The cause of her death has long been established. There was no foul play. Well, that's some food for thought right there. But yeah, Diddy's son would rather move their father to Mars if that's what it would take to defend him against the world. In their eyes, their father is a hero who can't say nor do no wrong.
It's craziness, man. And you know what's so crazy is, bruh, that all these stories has been around the industry for a long time. All these industry people know that Diddy been acting like this and doing this. And yo, it's a lot of stories that goes around in this industry about not just him, other people. Jimmy Iovine. Ain't nobody talking about Jimmy Iovine. He got sexual charges and everything on him. But he got those publicists that's keeping it out off of CEN. It's keeping it off the major news reports. Nobody's talking about that. This is something that goes on, man, that they're gonna push up under the rug, and a few years later, Bad Boy 5, 6, 7, 8 will be out.
The saddest part is that Diddy has been in the spotlight for over 30 years now. And while we've heard rumors and seen lawsuits pop up here and there, it's now very clear what Cassie said in her lawsuit, that Diddy's crew was full of yes men who were always very much ready to make his evils go away. There is just no way he could have pulled all these alone, and that's exactly what his former bodyguard also confirmed. The situation gets even more concerning when you take into account the number of women who have accused and sued Diddy in all forms of unprintable stuff, hurting them both physically and emotionally, plus forcing them into extremely inappropriate behavior. One of the latest mind-boggling allegations is from Neil Dickerson. The complaint against Combs intentionally drugged Dickerson Neal, leaving her unable to stand or walk. The suit said that she left her drink unattended with him at a restaurant, and afterward, under alleged pressure from Combs, she took a hit from a blunt. They then drove to a music studio, the suit stated. When Dickerson couldn't exit the car, Combs allegedly took her to a place he was staying to SA her, according to the filing. If you think that's downright disgusting, allegedly, Diddy put the whole thing on tape. All of Diddy's parties would start off as fun events and then turn into horrific nights for Diddy's victims, both men and women. With all of these cases on the table, it's enough to make you shiver. Each lawsuit we have read just peels back another layer into this guy. In Cassie's case, for instance, Diddy was exposed, not just for emotional manipulation, but for hitting women. And then there was Lil Rod's case where he alleged that not only did Diddy get his way with him forcefully, but he also tried to push Rod into doing some grim stuff with other industry famous personalities who were Diddy's friends and part of his freak off. And finally, we have Diddy's arch enemy, 50 Cent, who, by the way, has been a whistleblower on Diddy's case for over 2 decades, but no one ever took him seriously. 50 also recently alleged that Ava's video is one of the many that were uncovered during the raid. 50 Cent also confirmed that the Ava story will be covered in his much anticipated Diddy documentary, where he plans to reveal everything he knows and provide receipts. Couldn't have been a better timing. This is going to be a big one. Last year, 50 Cent shared a twist alluding to his documentary saying, "Rapper, I thought Diddy was a billionaire music mogul. If he's smart, he will file bankruptcy now." Anyone with real money knows why I'm saying this. I'm the best producer for this job, guys. Here comes the receipts. The Ava situation is something else entirely because unlike the other lawsuits women filed, this was a minor. It's making people reevaluate every side of Diddy's life. His entire image has come crashing down, but the real question is, what happened to Ava? Did Diddy hide something darker behind those big smiles and IG lives? And why does it seem like the industry has been protecting him for this long? With suspicions of trafficking, we are connecting the dots, and this is horrific. The internet is buzzing with questions, and people need answers. Stay tuned, loves, because remember, the hearing hasn't even started. We are definitely about to hear things we never thought we would, and so many
We've been covering the downfall of Sean Diddy Combs, including the new indictment that we've learned a lot of details about, but we're lucky to be joined this morning by a longtime friend of mine and fantastic journalist, Torre, who has a new Substack. Tell people where to find your new work, Torre.
Culture Fries is the name of the Substack. It's torre.substack.com, doing a lot of reporting on the Diddy situation there.
Amazing. So Torre has a new report up this morning that looks specifically at some exclusive details of how R&B singer Cassie was trapped in what you describe as a 10-year nightmare. In the headline, you say how Diddy used her album to control her. And you were able to speak with some folks who were close to Cassie. So talk to us about some of these new details that have yet to be revealed.
Yeah, I had a long conversation with a longtime friend of Cassie's. She was working on an album for 10 years. This is an incredibly long time to work on an album. She thought she was really working on an album. She had songwriters, she had hot producers, she had big artists coming in, rappers and singers to collab with her. They made a lot of songs, but there was never a release date. There was never a title. It was never intended to come out. It was a giant pacifier to keep her happy in between the times when Diddy was ready to do freak-offs. And it became this carrot of, if you want to continue doing the album, which you love, then you got to do the freak-offs. It has to be both. It can't be one or the other. And this is a way that he controlled a lot of people. If you want to stay around me, you got to participate in this over here, whatever it is that I want you to do. And that way you get to continue pursuing your professional dream. So it's really tragic. The best years of her creative life were spent thinking she was working on her sophomore album and about to blow up. Great label, Diddy's behind me, we're going to be huge, but it was all a sham.
Yeah, and so just so people recall, I mean, first of all, Cassie had some certified bangers, some great hits. super talented, beautiful. I mean, she had everything that it took. And then she also is, in part, the person who helps to kick off this whole series of events that leads to the federal charges against Diddy, because they had that look back law in New York that allowed her to file civil charges against him. He settles quickly, but not before a lot of the details emerge of her allegations of years and years of torture and abuse by Diddy. She also is the woman who appears in that horrifying hotel security camera footage where he is beating her and dragging her back to the hotel room. So Cassie is really central to this. And I think what's part of what's been important about your reporting and your reporting here in particular is that it centers the survivors here as well and really helps to share the level of abuse and trauma that they went through over years. Oh, and she also is the one who, possibly Diddy may have blown up her boyfriend Kid Cudi's car in the driveway too, because we have the arson charges in this federal indictment that haven't been detailed yet.
Part of the thing is that people are saying, how did this happen? How did Cassie rise up to stand up to him when so many other people wanted to and didn't feel comfortable because Diddy was so powerful? She's able to escape from him when Kim Porter suddenly passes away. He's so bereft and upset about that he's not really paying attention to anything. And so she's able to escape. Within a few months of basically running away from him, she's pregnant. She's in a committed relationship. She ends up marrying this man. At the end of the year, she has his baby. And by then, she's in a whole thing. She has a whole new life. And she is too far gone for Diddy to be able to get her back. And in that moment, going through rehab, going through therapy, having her parents, her friends, a husband who's supportive, children, she changes and she grows. And she's saying to herself, I want to be the stand-up person that I want my kids to be. I want to be a good example for them. And that leads her to say, I have to stand up for the girl I was, because the girl I was, who he controlled and beat up, I'm not that person anymore. And I need to stand up for her. And at that point, she says, I'm going to stand up to him. And so many people were afraid to do that. And she breaks that glass ceiling and pushes in there. She says to him, look, I wrote a book. For $30 million, you can have the book. You'll have my silence. Nobody will have to know what happened. But this person, Puffy, is surrounded by enablers. And anybody around who might say no is pushed off.
Right.
And so he's surrounded by enablers. He has this is an obvious deal. 30 million is nothing to him. He's a billionaire at this point. He says no. And then she goes forward with the lawsuit. Then everybody hears what happens. Then the federal government's like, wait, what happened? And then all this starts. But he could have stopped this, but he never thought that she was strong enough to actually stand up to him because she never had.
Well, yeah, it's the decades of the abuse that he had. Tori, you got quite a bit of attention. You put out a TikTok that detailed the Diddy story and how it was actually personal to you. Why don't we take a listen to some of that? That's going to be F2, guys, and we're going to get your reaction.
The Diddy situation is personal for me. I take no joy in the man's downfall. I just want to see justice. But I, too, felt his wrath. I knew this man for decades. I interviewed him many times. I went to some of his PG-rated parties. We had a professional relationship until something happened.
So tell us a little bit about that. Can you expand on what happened?
Yeah, I had a family member who was trying to break into the entertainment business. I felt like this is a situation where I should use my connections. I called Puff. I had never asked him for a favor. We didn't have like a personal relationship. We didn't hang out, but we had a definite years-long professional relationship. Will you please, hire my family member to be an intern in your situation, because I thought that would be good for him, break into the music business. For about 3 months, it was very exciting. They had a great time traveling around, go to the mansions, whatever. And then the whole internship suddenly stopped. And I'm calling and saying, hey, what's going on? How come you're not going to the internship? You're not going to work? And it was silence for years. I did not find out until years later that Puffy had said to him, either you come home with me tonight or the internship is over. And at that point, I was blown away that had happened, that had been said. My family member said no, which ended the internship. And, I was shocked. I was hurt. I was blown away that Puffy would do that.
One of the questions that's emerged now is if this was just like an open secret in the industry. I mean, the number of people who were likely involved, the number of other individuals who had stories similar to the one that you were privy to or worse. I mean, you have been around this scene. You've interviewed a lot of the major players. Was that your sense, was that this was sort of an open secret? Had you heard other rumors within the industry?
I mean,
it's still
to a certain extent, surely if I thought that I was putting my beloved family member, who I'm very close to and love immensely, if I thought I was putting them into any sort of danger of the sort we now know is possible, I wouldn't have done this at all. Right. So I could not have known the extent of what we're talking about at all.
Yeah.
Did I hear? I mean, I don't know. I don't really remember feeling like, oh my God, I know everybody is saying, oh my God, I heard back when I was in middle school, this is going on. I really don't know how prevalent this was as far as the rumors getting around. We knew about his violence. We knew, he threatened me. He threatened Danielle Smith at Vibe. He beat up Steve Stout. We knew that he had this massive temper.
He threatened you?
Yeah. There was a record review that I wrote where I criticized one of the lines that he said, and he called me and he was very nice in saying, can you please remove that line? Because that is annoying and hurtful to me. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to remove that line. And then he starts screaming and yelling at me and like, I'm going to ruin your career and all this stuff. And like,
Jesus.
I kind of stopped listening because it was a very loud, angry volume. It was like, oh my God, like whatever. And then he sort of, and I'm not really responding to that. And then he sort of comes down like emotionally and he's like, so can we remove that line? And I'm like, no, we cannot just remove that line. And that ended that. But I thought that we had gotten back to a place of equanimity. Like he pushed me, he challenged me, I stood my ground. And not long after that, I got invited to a white party in the Hamptons, which was this fabulous daytime affair, everyone wearing white. It was very cute. But he was sitting right next to me and dressing me down quite forcefully. And he was very upset with me. And, it was one of those things that I was like, wow, like he's got quite a temper.
Wow. So he invited you there basically to like humiliate you effectively, or to have a chance to yell at you in public.
I don't know. I don't know if it was that. This is a person who's very mercurial and changes. He could have screamed at me in a way that caused others to look. I don't think others who were at that party would remember or were conscious of, oh, Puff has given it to Touré.
Yeah.
He may have said, all right, forget it. Let's move forward and embrace him and help make him think like he's still cool with us. And then saw me and got mad. And then, I saw multiple emotional reactions in the phone conversation, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know that it was a setup. I mean, that would be a long way to go for a setup. I don't think it was that. I think that he just changes emotionally from moment to moment. There's so many moments when he does something, he gets super triggered and explodes. And then next thing you know, he's on his knees begging someone to please forgive him for what he did. So there's rapid emotional changes coming from this person.
And Touré, there's obviously a lot of chatter about who could potentially be caught up in this next. Are there other big name celebrities who may also be implicated, who may also go down? Because, I mean, the federal government is alleging this is a racketeering scheme. Like this was a criminal enterprise. Do you have any insight into who's getting nervous, who should be nervous, if anyone's nervous, any of that?
I mean, there's one name. I mean, Cuba Gooding Jr. did some things that should have him nervous. These are in a criminal complaint that's already a lawsuit that's already out there. But here's the thing. A lot of people seem to think that Puff will be able to snitch on others and thus reduce his time or get out of this entirely. And that completely misunderstands the situation that we are in and what it means to cooperate with the government. He would have to say, I can tell you about a massive criminal conspiracy far bigger than the one that I am involved in and one that you need me to help you. Like if he's a mid-level mobster and the government is like, we don't know how to get the top guy. And he's like, I can explain to you how to get the top guy, or I can explain to you how to take down this other family. That is something. But Puff cannot say, hey, you know what? This rapper, this basketball player, this governor, whatever, came to my party and he did X, Y, and Z. Okay, that's a year off your sentence. No. You are the ringleader of this. You are the facilitator and creator of the situation. There's no way that he's going to be able to talk his way out of this.
Gotcha.
Got it.
Well, guys, go give Tori a follow, subscribe on Substack, Culture Fries, and also over on TikTok.
While the world has been seeing everything unfolding with Diddy, people have started to wonder who else is guilty. They have started re-examining past industry parties to see if it reveals anything about their favorite stars. This has led people to realize that the signs of this behavior were always there. Now, they are calling out other powerful celebrities who seem to be just as guilty as Diddy. One man people have been asking about is no other than Jay-Z, who was always seen close to Diddy. People are now examining their close relationship for years and wondering if Jay-Z will be next. Hey guys, I hope all is well. Welcome back to The Truth Is, where I drop new videos every other day exposing the truth. In today's episode, we will be talking about why Jay-Z should be next. Let's get right into it. For years now, Jay-Z has been seen as one of the most powerful rappers in the music industry, growing himself a massive empire that's allowed him to amass in the billions of dollars. For the most part, Jay-Z and Diddy were generally seen at about the same level in the industry, with Diddy slightly leading the two due to him being an executive long before Jay. These two men are looked at as the top guys in hip-hop. They have so much power they can make anything happen. As we are now seeing with Diddy, that turned out to be a very bad thing, as he was using all that power to do some very disturbing things to many different people. He used that power to manipulate and control people. He also used it to have his way with men, females, and kids. It's even reported that he used that power to get rid of other rappers. Because of all this power, Diddy felt unstoppable, which allowed him to run amok for years. Who knows how many skeletons Diddy has in his closet? If you think what we're seeing now is dark, imagine the secrets he's really protecting. All that power in the hands of one man could be dangerous. And if we look at Jay-Z, he has the same amount or even more power than Diddy has, which has led many people to wonder if he's up to the same things as Diddy with all that power. Well, if we analyze Jay's behavior since the beginning of his career, we start to identify similar behavior. Diddy has been accused of bad business practices like robbing his artists. He also has been accused of abusing his power to force people to give him what he wants, also being accused of liking them young, and even having hits put on people, amongst many other terrible things that are coming out day after day. If we look at Jay-Z, he seems to be guilty of a lot of the same things as Diddy. One thing that Jay-Z definitely seems to be guilty of is being into them young. Like Kendrick suggested Drake is, Jay-Z seems to be a certified PDF file, something that most people seem to overlook. Now in this video, I will break down exactly why I believe Jay-Z is probably worse than Diddy. The best example of this is his relationship with Beyonce, his wife of many years. While Jay-Z and Beyonce are seen as one of the most powerful couples in Hollywood, no one seems to realize the relationship shouldn't have happened to begin with. When Jay-Z met Beyonce, she was only 16 years old, even though Beyonce claims she met Jay back in 1999 when she was 18 or 19. In this interview, Jay-Z tells us otherwise, as in 2007, he did an interview with Charlie Rose where he told Charlie he met Beyonce 10 years prior to that day. 10 years before 2007 would have been 1997, which would have made Beyonce only 16 when they met. If we look at Jay, when Charlie asked him this question, he starts to act a bit suspicious. When he's asked how long ago he met Beyonce, he didn't give a straight answer, only that he's known her since she's been recording music, then stating that it was 10 years prior.
Because Beyonce has a deal and they know I know her. So, but
how long have you known her?
Wow, a long time.
How long? 10 years?
How long? However long she's been recording. That's when I met her.
Don't you remember how long it was?
Yeah, when I met her. I mean,
was it 5 years? Was it?
I met her 10 years ago. I met her 10 years ago.
But did you say to yourself at that time, "Wow"?
I said, yeah, that's a fantastic talent.
Was that what you said?
Yeah, because.
As you heard for yourself, you can see Jay-Z didn't want to answer that question. He appeared a bit nervous and was caught off guard by that question. The look on his face alone shows guilt in that he didn't want to answer. What this interview proves is that Jay-Z, who was 28 years old in 1997, was already around Beyonce when she was only 16 years old. We all know he was attracted to her since he met her, as just a couple years later, they would start their public relationship. Jay would go on to eventually marry Beyonce, and they ended up becoming hip-hop's most loved couple. In my opinion, it's obvious Jay-Z was pursuing Beyonce romantically since he met her at 16 years old. I'm confident that they had already been together since then. All Jay did was wait until she was of legal age to make it public. This alone suggests that Jay-Z is a certified PDF file. While people might say that they are at least together to this day, that's not the problem. The problem is Jay, who was a big star at the time, on top of the music industry, took advantage of a young Beyonce who was 16 trying to make it in the music industry. At that moment, Beyonce was willing to do anything to make it. She obviously got with a much older Jay-Z because of the opportunities it would provide her. This is literally the exact reason Diddy is being indicted for, because he abused his power and made people get into relationships with him for opportunities. I believe Jay-Z took complete advantage of his power, and Beyonce wasn't even his only victim. When we look at Jay-Z's relationship with Rihanna, it further confirms that he's a certified PDF file. Jay-Z and Rihanna's relationship goes back to the beginning of her career. Just like Beyonce, Rihanna met Jay-Z when she was only 16 years old, trying to make it in the music industry. In fact, the first time Jay-Z met Rihanna was the day he signed her. The way that Rihanna got discovered and signed, to me, always left me with many questions. Rihanna was a teenager in Barbados with no connections when she somehow managed to get into a hotel room with Evan Rogers, a music producer who just so happened to be vacationing in Barbados. Rogers would have Rihanna perform a song in a hotel room alone with him and two other 16-year-old girls, where he decided that he was only interested in Rihanna. Rihanna would end up signing a production deal with Rogers' production company, Syndicated Rhythm, and then put out a demo. Two A&Rs working at Def Jam heard the demo and quickly showed it to no other than Jay-Z himself. Rihanna was then flown to New York City, where she would meet with Jay-Z. This is when she performed for the label, with them being blown away by her performance. L.A. Reid, the head of the label, told Jay-Z not to let Rihanna leave the building without making her sign the dotted line. This is when Jay-Z locked Rihanna into his office, and according to Rihanna, Jay-Z told her that there was only two ways to get out of this office. You either sign this record deal and walk out the front door, or you can go out through the window from the 29th floor. Rihanna would sign her first major record deal at exactly 3 a.m., and it just so happened to be a 6-album deal.
The diva Rihanna. She's from Barbados?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, she's Bayesian. How did you come in contact with her? I mean, did you fly over there?
Jay Brown had actually bought me the song. She had a song now. It's I wouldn't say massive because of her rules when I first heard the song. And then, he kept going. Jay Brown, he kept being persistent. I was like, you know what, bring her by. And when she walked into our office, I was like, she just had, it was just something about her. It was just, she had this, something about it. And then she performed the song, and I was like, okay. Then, we sat down and we talked. And they were talking about how she would stay in the studio and try to get the verse over. Then come back the next day. I was like, oh, work ethic. Everything is there. So we signed it that night. We didn't let her leave the office. Really? The 3 a.m. was when that contract got signed. So in the morning, was when that contract got signed. So the meeting around 3, 4 in the afternoon, we signed it by 3 in the morning. Yeah, I was absolutely certain.
Oh yeah, she said, we don't sing songs here, we sing artists. And there was this little pause, and I was nervous. But then he said, and we're interested. And there's this sudden feel of relief. But then he said about a window and a door or something. Oh, and he said, he said it whole he said, there are 2 ways to leave here, either through the door with the deal sign or through this window, and we're on the 29th floor. With the deal sign or through this window, and we're on the 29th floor.
What makes this so disturbing is that it was rumored that Jay-Z had hooked up with Rihanna in 2005, around the time she was 16 or 17 when he signed her. Apparently, this led to Beyonce leaving Jay-Z for 2 years and starting to hate Rihanna. And it's also the reason Beyonce and Rihanna never made music together. It's even believed the song Bow Down by Beyonce was created as a diss song to Rihanna. This was a rumor all over the media at the time that was eventually put to rest when Jonathan Hay came out and declared he started the rumor. For those who don't know Jonathan Hay, he was a music industry publicist for many years. He was actually Rihanna's publicist when this all happened. When things were getting bad for Jay-Z because of this so-called rumor, Jonathan came out and claimed he started the rumor to build up hype for Rihanna's song. The only thing is, this was a lie, and Jonathan Hay didn't start the rumor. He was just covering it all up. I recently did an interview with Jonathan Hay where he told me all about this. When I asked him about the Rihanna and Jay-Z incident, he confessed the truth to me. He told me that it wasn't a rumor at all, and Jay-Z and Rihanna really did hook up when she was only 16. According to Jonathan, he was paid off by someone on Jay-Z's team in order to declare to the media that he started the rumor. They did this to cover up the fact that Jay-Z was in a relationship with Rihanna when she was 16. The fact that you mentioned Jay-Z, I want to actually ask you a question about Jay-Z. You said in that interview with Jaguar Wright and Real Life Productions, you stated that you were actually the one responsible for spreading the rumor that Jay-Z and Rihanna had hooked up. Now, my question to you is, do you believe that at all? Did you believe that rumor before you said it, before you claimed it? Do you believe that there's any truth? Not saying that you're accusing Jay-Z. Let's make this clear. We're not trying to get anybody in trouble here. But do you believe that there's a possibility that that could have been true?
So as far as the rumor, I came out and said that I started the rumor a long time ago because I was told that I would be rewarded significantly.
Okay.
You know, for coming out and saying that I started the rumor, and it stuck. I was to be the one that was to fall on the sword, so to speak.
Now, you didn't answer the question. You don't have to if you don't want to. At any moment, did you personally feel that they could have had something going on? Jay-Z and Rihanna?
Definitely.
You can say okay, allegedly, definitely.
Not allegedly.
Okay, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
See, I agree with you 100%. That's what I believe as well. And the people that reached out to you, they essentially made you cover this up. They, like you said, made you throw yourself on the sword and take responsibility for something that you weren't even the one 100% behind the rumor. They just told you to say it. Correct?
Correct.
As you heard for yourself, Jonathan confirms that they were indeed together, and this is someone who was working with Rihanna at the time. He confesses that he was paid to claim he started the rumor and that it wasn't true, when in reality it was true, and they were just paying him to cover it all up. Jonathan says that he does believe Jay-Z and Rihanna were in a relationship when she was 16. Now, looking at this, it proves that this is how the industry keeps its secrets. This is how they clean up their scandals. They know the fans will believe anything they're told, even when the evidence is right there in the open. Beyonce literally left Jay-Z for 2 years because of his relationship with Rihanna. This again suggests that Jay-Z is a certified PDF file. I honestly believe this happened, as it was basically known in the industry for years. Jay-Z knows new girls coming in the industry would do anything to make it to the top. Rihanna went from Barbados with no connections to Jay-Z's office, getting a record deal, to eventually becoming a billionaire. It's obvious she paid the price to Jay for her success. Another teen girl that Jay seems to have been into was Foxy Brown. Foxy Brown had signed a major record deal with Def Jam back in 1996 when she was between 17 and 18 years old. Jay actually played a large role in Foxy being signed to Def Jam, as he had worked with her early in her career when she was only 15 or 16. Back in the early 90s, Jay-Z was seen very close to young Foxy, and the rumor was that Jay-Z was actually being intimate with Foxy since 1994, when they first started making music together. Jay-Z recorded Ain't No with Foxy Brown back in 1994, even though the song was released in 1996. In 1994, Foxy was no older than 15 or 16 years old. People believe that at this point in time, Jay-Z, who was 25 years old, was allegedly already hooking up with Foxy at that age. Even TMZ posted an article where they claim Foxy Brown stated Jay-Z hooked up with her when she was only 14 and he was 24. Foxy claims Jay-Z was her first time, and according to this TMZ article, she even claimed that Jay-Z was into transitioned women. If you were to ask me, I think this is the truth. We already know Jay-Z is into younger girls, as he got with Beyonce and Rihanna at 16. It's obvious Foxy, just like Beyonce and Rihanna, was taken advantage of by Jay. Many people have actually said Jay-Z was in a relationship with Foxy Brown, one being Nick Cannon, who during an interview with Dame Dash presses him on the situation. Nick Cannon straight up brings up the fact that when he met Foxy Brown, she was 16 and was introduced to him as Jay's girl, and this made Dame Dash visibly uncomfortable.
Was Foxy Brown signed?
I wasn't paying attention to Foxy Brown.
But that's
I didn't sign Foxy Brown.
I'm
I'm
just asking a question.
I'm on the block. I'm responsible for everything.
You the boss.
Yo, don't beat around the bush. Say what you want.
I'm
to say.
just
What do you mean by that question?
I'm just asking.
What are you insinuating?
I'm not insinuating. I just asked a question.
I
thought Foxy was like 16. That's all I'm saying.
It sounds like you,
all I'm saying is
like
in this industry, we live in these glass houses.
It seems like you got a question for Jay. Ask her. Y'all keep asking me questions. I want to ask him because he ain't here. Ask him. I ain't got to do with that, and I don't even know nothing about that. You playing?
You my man.
I know not with me. When you say that Foxy was 16 when she got signed, why did you say that just now?
When I first was introduced to who Foxy was, I thought there was something between Foxy and Jay.
Jay.
As you heard for yourself, Nick Cannon brings up Jay and Foxy Brown's relationship, and Dame starts to panic. He instantly started getting defensive, which reveals he knows something nefarious happened between the two. Nick Cannon then tells Dame that he was introduced to Foxy when she was 16 as Jay's girl. Then Dame tells Nick, just ask Jay-Z about that, not him. This obviously reveals Dame Dash knows Jay-Z was with Foxy since a young age. He knows Jay's dark secrets. Foxy allegedly hooked up with Jay young and then got signed to the same label as him. You tell me if that's a coincidence. It's not just hooking up with younger girls that Jay-Z is accused of. He's also accused of taking people out. Just like Diddy, it's believed Jay has gotten rappers taken out. It's a long-standing rumor that Jay-Z took out Pimp C because he had allegedly filmed Beyonce hooking up with another rapper.
You know, like a lot of people don't know, man. You know, I ain't gonna say who it is, but it's a real famous rapper. And it's a real famous R&B chick. Okay. Yeah. Pimp had he had a recording of them. I think he died with it, but he could have made millions of dollars. And some of the people that's higher up in rap, they would have seen that tape. You know what I'm saying? You think that Kim Kardashian was something? Yeah, this would have blew it out the water. Man, this shit. I'm gonna use your imagination. The biggest R&B chick in the game.
I already know who it is.
And one of the biggest rappers. You know what I'm saying? They made the most money in the game. And they wasn't supposed to be together.
Some people believe that the video was Pimp C and Beyonce hooking up. The rumor is Jay-Z heard about this and it made him furious, leading him to put a bounty on Pimp C. This is something I believe and I should look into deeper. If you would like to see a full video regarding this claim, comment what happened to Pimp C below. Pimp C isn't the only alleged body Jay got, as it's believed he might have been behind getting rid of his secret lover, Kathy White. It's believed Jay-Z allegedly put a bounty on Kathy's head to keep her from having their baby and going public with their relationship. Again, I wouldn't put this past Jay-Z. I believe he's capable of doing such evil things. Just by the things I have brought up in this video, it's obvious to me that Jay-Z is either just as bad as Diddy or possibly even worse. Some people think Jay-Z is next to go down, and honestly, I don't believe this. The elite love Jay-Z, and it looks like they're clearing Diddy's #1 spot to give it to him. I don't think Jay would go down for this, at least not now. Maybe in the future when the elite no longer have a need for him and he starts to get out of line. Maybe then we will see him go down like Diddy. This year, we're seeing the truth about this corrupt industry. We're seeing for so many years those in the industry have been taking advantage of their power, abusing their power, and acting as if they were untouchable. While the industry would never be fully repaired, at least more people would be aware of what's going on and choose to avoid it. One thing is for sure, Jay-Z definitely deserves to be next. Well, I'm gonna end this one here.
Cool figure. Follow me.